Welcome to the Boston's Big Four podcast. Cast. New news about music and sports every week, sometimes.
And we're back, Boston's Big Four, episode 57, with very special guest, John Logan. So thank you for joining us. You've done a lot. You have, first of all, congratulations on the trademark. Impossible is just a word.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I've been seeing that for a while. Full disclosure, we're from the same town. We know each other.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's been, first of all, just permeating. I mean, just it's motivational, gets you going. And you've tied that in with magic. And I feel like that's a pretty unique combination, or maybe not unique, but a powerful combination as far as bringing positive thoughts to people's day. So
thank you. Yeah, it's been fun. I've been using that phrase for, I don't know, quite a while now, and probably more than like half my life. I'll just do, a quick background. I was I'm a magician for the past, I was 12 years old and I was really bored at my aunt's birthday party, and I decided to go in another room and start making up magic tricks. And one thing led to another, and a talent agency saw my videos on YouTube and had no idea how I was pulling them off. So
wow.
they reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you want to be a creative consultant?" And I was like, "Well, what's a creative consultant?" And they were like, "Well, we'll pay you to develop magic tricks for David Blaine and David Copperfield and Penn and Teller and all these cool famous magicians."
Wow.
And I was like,
and this was at 12 or how?
Yeah, and I was
Wow.
like, yeah, let us finish up my homework, then I'll ask my mom.
Interesting. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize you had caught fire that early. That's
Yeah, I didn't know that either. Wow.
So I guess sorry to like dial it back a little bit. You said you were practicing just kind of on your own in your room at 12. A question I had, like, are there influences you had that got you to try certain tricks in the first place? Or like, did you have a kit that kind of had instructions that you went off of, or I guess we had internet. So were you on the internet just kind of Googling tricks? Or I'm just curious, what was like the first coin trick? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah. I think a little bit of everything was. I had a kit, and I had a kit when I was really little, and I think I kind of went through that phase, and I kind of fade out, faded in. I feel like every person kind of goes through like a phase of magic, whether that be like an hour or like a day or a week or a month or whatever. And then my phase just like never ended.
Yeah.
And so that's I just kind of went into the room, just kind of like, you know what, let me just entertain myself. Let me just kind of make up some few tricks, whatever. And I'm like, I'll film myself perform. If anyone sees a video, great. If not, whatever. And they reached out to me, and I'm like, holy moly, all right, maybe like I have some potential here. So they asked me like a few other ideas I had, and I kind of told them a few ideas, and they're like, wow, this is this kid kind of has some cool ideas that you can probably integrate, and it really took off from there. So I was very, very lucky at a young age to be around people who who were in that industry, and I was able to observe and understand how the market works and how that type of industry and service works. Because it's just not just about performing magic. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that people don't really know about how to run a brand and how to advertise yourself and how to connect with the audience with magic. And I could talk about hours and hours about that type of stuff, but.
So you got a crash course in business through magic, and I mean that's like
exactly what it is. Yeah, it's
wow.
Exactly what it is. Yeah. So and that's kind of what I do now. So I perform magic, but I also do a lot of educational keynotes, and this is for leadership conferences or corporate retreats or stuff like that. And I've traveled from LA to Orlando, from across the world, just doing these talks. So I was really fascinated, kind of going back to what you just said, this crash course in business using magic. And as I was kind of getting older, and I realized I was really interested in how to make a vision in your head become a reality. right? How do you think of something, especially magicians, right? Magicians have to say, okay, I need to achieve the impossible. How are we going to do that, right? So I was really, really intrigued by this idea of making something have become reality. So rather than performing magic, I actually decided to travel kind of the world and the country for a few years, interacting with and living with and studying habits that very successful magicians and entrepreneurs and business leaders and CEOs use to think differently, to look at something from a different perspective, how to achieve their goals, their decision-making process, and things like that. So now that's kind of what my keynote is about now. So not only do I perform magic, you can hire me for magic, but also I'm a keynote speaker where I talk about the creativity process, the innovation process, the decision-making process, but I integrate magic as well, so they learn in a fun way. So it's a little corny, but I call it edutainment. So it's like education, entertainment.
Oh,
It's like Leeds.
that is so interesting because the last guest we had on Leeds, his brand is Leeds Edutainment.
Oh, there you go.
Yep, there you go.
Very interesting. Yeah, full circle there.
Yeah.
And so I guess I'm curious. I said in the beginning that that's a unique combination, and then I retracted it a little bit. Have you found other keynote speakers incorporate magic in the way you do, or are they more like showmen and you're delivering a message?
Yeah, there are magicians who do that. I think we have our own sort of style and message that we do. So I wouldn't say there's not one person out there that does exactly what I do, but there are other magicians who talk about similar things and integrate the magic as well. And I think that's kind of the tough part about being just an entertainer or a speaker in general, or even a brand in general, right? Like it's hard to, how are you different than everyone else, right? And it's, if you ask someone, it's like, okay, how do I find my voice, or how do I stand out? I would guarantee you 95% of the people will say, well, just be yourself, right? And I think that's such stupid advice because, like, that's so vague,
Right.
Be myself, right? Like, how do you just be yourself, right? Like, when you're trying to find your voice, you don't even know who you are to begin with, right?
Right.
So the more, I think what I tend to tell people is do more of what you're trying to do. And that's how you're going to figure out your persona, your style, your personality, because you do it and you actually film yourself doing it. And not just on camera, through like a webcam or whatever. I'm not talking about this, but just like if you're a presenter or whatever, you have to film yourself when you're actually in front of the audience. Because when you're practicing something, I know from experience, I practice something in front of the mirror or whatever, and then when I get out in front of the audience, it's completely different, right? It's a completely different ball game, right? It's a completely different mindset. But the more you do it, the more you're gonna realize, oh, okay, like I liked how I said this, I liked how I said that. Oh, this is actually good philosophy. And then again, the more you do it, the more you're gonna realize, you're gonna figure out what type of brand you are and how you can actually stand out. If that makes sense. And I think magicians especially magicians have that trouble of, they'll see a trick and they'll say, "Oh, I like how that performer performed that trick. I'm gonna do the same exact way in my show," and they'll do that, and they'll get crickets, right? So I'll tell you a funny story. So there's a trick that magicians do, that they have a notepad and they draw a bowling ball in a notepad, and they'll take the notepad, they'll squeeze the notepad, and a real bowling ball will fall out, right? So it's just a human bowling ball. The weird thing is that once someone did that, a lot of magicians started integrating that into their act. The same jokes, the same script, the same drawing, everything was exactly
kind of like hibachi almost.
Yeah, right. So some magicians were getting fantastic reactions, and some magicians weren't, right? So this very famous magician, my friend named Kayla Drescher, she's very very successful. She's a female magician, and there's really not a lot of female magicians out there in the industry. It's kind of a male-dominated industry. So she said, "Okay, I like this trick, but how can I make it different?" So then she said, "Okay, well, what makes me different? Well, I am a female magician. There's not a lot of female magicians out there. How can I use that to my advantage?" So then, rather than drawing a bowling ball, she drew a pair of heels. She drew a pair of heels on the notepad. She squeezed the notepad. A real pair of heels falls out, and she put on the pair of heels. She began her show, and it's called Magic and Heels, right? And that caught the attention of David Copperfield, and now they collaborate with each other, right? So kind of the lesson is, because you have to think about what makes you different, what makes you unique that other people don't have. And one strategy I tell people is, if you're having trouble doing that, think about what you do in your free time, right? So what do you do in your free time when you have nothing to do? What are you naturally drawn to? And it's okay if you think of like, oh, I like to watch Netflix, or like play like video games, or watch movies, or whatever, or read books, right? No matter what it is, the more you think about it, the more I guarantee you there's some sort of theme of the shows you're watching, or the movies you're watching, or the books you're reading. And you'll be like, oh, wow, actually, I didn't realize that all the things I'm reading and watching, they're all murder mysteries. Why am I attracted to murder mysteries, right? And then how can you, the more you think about it, like, wow, okay, well, why would I be? And then you can figure out what makes you unique as well, then integrate that into your brand, right? If that makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I know I kind of rambled on there, but I think that's it's the trouble that magicians have. I had growing up, right? If you looked at my first business card, right, I had like the straight face. I took myself really seriously, right? I was more like, hey, look what I can do and you can't do. And the more I perform, the more I realize, oh wait, I don't like that. I don't like that side of me. I don't want to be known as that type of person. So I've really changed over the years, where I make it about the people. I make it about the audience. If I do a trick, I act like I'm not as surprised as the audience is. Like, oh my God, how did the card just change? I have no idea. Like, and make it that the audience did the magic. I didn't do anything, right? And that's kind of my type of style. I really poke fun at pop culture. I make it all about the audience, and that's kind of what I tend to do. I think I try to center my show around my whole theme. Is impossible is just a word, and my whole thing is, if I can achieve the impossible, then why can't you? Right? So kind of my ending speech that I talk about in my show is that, if you have a goal in your life that you think is impossible to achieve, it could be a personal goal, professional goal, something on your bucket list. You just witnessed me achieve the impossible for the last 60 minutes, then you'd be contradicting yourself if you think that your goal in life would be impossible to achieve as well, right? So I really want to make it about the audience. I try to make it really back to them. I don't like to perform magic that the goal is to fool the audience. I don't want them to view it as a puzzle and make them feel like, oh, John's showing off or something like that. I want it to be, we're all kind of in this together, and I'm just going to use magic as kind of a guide to make it a little bit more fun, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I feel that just like you mentioned with how that woman did it with the heels, and just how you can adapt certain tricks to sort of steer your mind a certain way. You can tell a story through a show with magic, and it definitely has it could be maybe, let's say, the same set of tricks for 3 different shows, but the story was slightly different for each one because you were able to tailor it a certain way.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And I think a lot of magicians and even musicians, cover bands, right, only go so far, because they're the most successful cover bands do covers of other bands' songs, but they put their twist on it, right? But they can make it so far, right? You have to, and I think that's what magicians do all the time. They could see a trick and they could say, oh, I like how that person does it, I'm going to do it in my act as well, and it doesn't work as well, right? Because you're kind of fixated on that on their performance. You don't realize, why does it work for them and not work for you? Why did they react to them, and why didn't they react to me? Well, how can I change it so it actually makes it a little bit more natural and fits my own personality?
Right. Which magicians would you say you've drawn the most influence from?
So there's one magician named Justin Willman, and he has his own show on Netflix. I would highly recommend it. It's called Magic for Humans.
Okay.
He's actually the host of Cupcake Wars as well, if you know the show Cupcake Wars. And he's been on the Ellen Show. He's been on Fallon. He's like really, really, really high up there. But I actually knew him before he became this big magician. So I was like 10 years old, and I think he's probably, I don't know, maybe he's like 10 years older than me. I don't know. So let's say he was doing that. And what he was doing, he was just doing, kids' birthday parties and stuff like that. I've never really done kids' birthday parties. I'm more like the adult magic and stuff like that. But I was at a birthday party and he was doing magic. And so I've been kind of following. We kind of connected back then, and then we've been kind of staying in contact ever since then. And I can see the evolution of like his magic over the years. Mm-hmm. He did a lot of what I do. Maybe I'm just subconsciously inspired by him, and we have just very similar styles where we don't use a lot of fancy props. We make fun of like pop culture. We do a lot of organic magic, which means that there's no special props. Everything is borrowed from the audience. We make it about the audience. We do a lot of like twist endings where we think you're going one way and it's completely different direction. We just make it a little like fun, right? So his whole show, if you go to his show, his stage show, it's about I think it's about 90 minutes long, but he only performs like 7 tricks, right? Wow. Because he's just very entertaining in general. And he really tries to connect with the audience, so that's what I try to do as well. I try to make it really just a modern day type of show. I always think about it, if I'm traveling, let's say, to London or whatever, and I have a keynote, I have a show there, and I lose all my luggage, all my props, could I still perform, right? Can I go into a local convenience shop and buy everything I need? And that's how I try to do my show. I try to make it so I try to not use a lot of props in my show.
Yeah. And I think from a skeptic's point of view, which you probably are seeing skeptics all the time as a magician, people are way less likely to doubt you if you're using something that was live. Like clearly you didn't bring this and it's not got like a secret compartment or something like, so that's where people feel that the trick was more real. They're like, they took this out of my hand and made it reappear in that guy's pocket or something. And you're like, how did that happen? And I have to say, I personally have witnessed you had mentioned a card changing, just like the surrealism of like right in front of me. I watched you put a card on my knee. We flip it. It's a jack, and and it comes back. It's a queen. And I'm like, it hasn't, as far as I was aware, it didn't leave my knee. So I'm like, how did it become a different card?
That stuff's mind blowing.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, like, right, like what you just said, Owen, is pretty much saying like, now, if I did that same trick, right, but I rubbed it against my knee, would you have the same memory in your mind? And I would say no, right?
Yeah.
It's a very simple concept of me using you as the magic. I didn't do anything. I just rubbed the card against your knee, and your knee caused the magic to happen, right?
You have a magic knee, Owen.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? And that's the thing,
And did you find, is that like through trial and error? Was that sort of your own revelation? Or you mentioned you kind of came up with this guy, he was much older. Do you feel that you ever had like a formal or informal mentor where you guys like worked off each other's styles? Is that how you sort of grew up that style?
Yeah, I think it's a little combination of everything. I think doing trial and error, I realized, like I have that cards here, right? Now, I'll do a very quick example, right? If I took like the 7 of hearts, right? If you can see that okay, right?
Yeah.
And I see the 7 of hearts, right? And I go like, and I blow on, it's a jack of spades now, right? Right? Now, that's a very simple trick, right? Not a very simple trick, but compared to me going up to you, right? And me going like, okay, I'm going to show you a trick now. And I do all these cool fancy moves beforehand and say, okay, now take out any card you want, and I'm going to change it into a different card, right? Now I could do that same exact trick I just did, the 7 of hearts and the jack of spades, right? But if I didn't do, you're gonna perceive it as a better trick if I didn't do these fancy moves in the beginning. And why is that? Because if I do these fancy moves in the beginning, you instantly know, okay, he's really good at manipulating cards.
Yeah, like there's some flair. Yeah, exactly.
Right? So I don't do that, right? And a lot of magicians, and I used to do that because I viewed it as a way of saying, hey, look, like I'm a really good magician because I can do all these cool fancy moves. I can do all these cool things, whatever, right? And I do the trick, and one, it just feels like I'm bragging, and I don't want to feel like I'm bragging. And then two, it actually ruins the trick for other people because we're like, okay, well, we know that he's good at cards, right? So sometimes I'll actually like drop a few cards on purpose to show that like it's more impressive if it's a very simplified trick, right? If I borrowed your deck of cards. Now these cards I have here, these are just blue bicycle playing cards, right? Now you recognize these cards. Everyone has seen these types of cards before, but a lot of magicians they buy, you can buy these cards with this cool background, whatever, not these ones, but just like a really cool background. And a lot of magicians will use those cards with a cool back of them, and go up to people and start doing all these crazy moves and all this stuff, and then do a trick, right? Well, just like you said, it's more impressive if I borrowed those cards. If it's more impressive if I used an object that everyone recognizes, right? I'm not going to use these cool-looking playing cards. I'm going to use cards that people recognize. It's more impressive, right? It's more impressive if I borrowed your card that everyone recognizes and I changed the card on your knee, compared to me using these fancy-looking cards and changing it on my knee. It could be the same exact trick, but just because I try to make it more relatable to you and make it all about you, you perceive it differently, right? Yeah. So there's a lot of psychology with that, and that's all just trial and error. And back when I was younger, I thought I was like amazing doing all these crazy things, and I realized like, wait a minute, like why is there something off here? And I just learned to trial and error to make it to alter my routine a little bit. Yeah,
well, it's great that you have that insight, because obviously you've dialed it in to where like you're giving the viewer or your audience like just that perfect like tunnel vision peek into where you want them to see, and you're putting the blinders on everywhere else. And it's I've experienced it like this was a while ago too, so I remember it is definitely amazing just to be
That's
able
something you don't forget too. When you see a good magic trick, that's something you remember the rest of your life.
Well,
absolutely.
And that's the thing right there, you just said that perfectly, right? If I do a show, and let's say I do 60 minutes of magic, right? Now, I don't want, well, again, it's two things. I don't want people to view my show as a puzzle, so I try to make it, it's like, it's all, we're all in this together. So when something amazing happens, I'm like, oh my God, how did that just happen as well, right? But also to the point of, if I do a 60-minute magic show, let's say I do 10 tricks in that 60-minute show, that next day, I guarantee you'll only remember about 20% of exactly what I did.
Yeah.
Right. So and you'll remember the end result, what that magical moment per se.
Right.
But how I got there will be all mushy in your mind, right? It'll be a little fuzzy, right? So I've realized this over the years, that people won't remember the trick itself, but they will remember how they felt. Right? Now, Owen, I guarantee you remember that I took a playing card, I rubbed it next to your knee, and it changed to a different card, right? You probably don't remember what card it was, right? Right?
Yeah, not exactly, yeah.
Now, you don't even know what knee I did it on, right? You just remember, wow, he took a card, he rubbed it against my knee and changed to the card, right? It's the feeling you get, right?
Exactly.
It's just that one moment where you realized what happened. And
exactly, yeah. And so magic is very hard, because this happens to me all the time. I develop a trick, and I think it's amazing. I go out there, I perform the trick to people, it gets no reaction. The people are like, oh, that was cool. I'm like, what? That's amazing. What do you mean? Like, oh, I don't know. I didn't think it was amazing. I'm like, what? Or there could be a time where I could, again, this actually happened to me, where I have a trick. It's a very, very stupid trick. In my opinion, it's a very stupid trick. I did it in my show, and I reveal how I do it. But over time, I realized people thought it was so amazing that I just stopped revealing it. And they're like, oh, that was like one of your best tricks. I'm like, okay, right?
Yeah.
So it's very hard being a magician, because there's two parts of the trick. There's what the audience perceives, and it's what the method of what you're doing. And how aligned are they, in the sense of, are people going to find what you do, or one, you have to amaze them, and two, you have to do it in a way where they don't know how you did it, right? And that's a tough boundary if you know the secret of the trick, because then you don't really know how good it is, right?
Exactly,
so
yeah.
There's a lot of like psychology that has to do with magic as well, that people don't really recognize. People just think, oh, I just go up there and do my tricks and all that stuff. No, it's a lot of trial and error and psychology and using this word rather than that word, in my body movements and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a two-part question here. So obviously you tightly wound magic and public speaking. Did you find public speaking to come as naturally as magic, or did you feel that performing magic in front of an audience was a lot easier than speaking, or was it just hand in hand? You were comfortable doing both right away?
Magic definitely helped. I think magic definitely helped. I think I think I was probably just naturally drawn to magic beforehand, and then I think as I was doing magic, it was helping with my public speaking skills. It was helping me connecting with people, helping me communicate with people, and then I think that's what kind of led me into this public speaker now. What I hate when people say is when people use the word motivational speaker or influencer. I hate that. It's just because it's just, I feel like it's very a conceited word, and it's just it's like, again, I used to use it. I used to call myself like a motivational magician. I don't use that word anymore because I feel like it's not up to me to determine if I motivated you or not, right? Or the social media influencers, right? Like, well, no, like if you don't influence me, you're not an influencer, right? Like you're already proclaiming that it's their title, right? So in my opinion, it's like I do magic, but I kind of consider myself maybe like a leadership keynote speaker with magic, right? Or maybe, it just depends. I can't say I'm a motivational speaker. It's just like, it's just a weird thing to say. Like, because what if like no one's motivated to do anything, then I'm not a motivational speaker, right? So I let the audience kind of determine what they like to call me. Kind of go back to your original question, the communication. So I think magic has helped me because magic is all about communicating with people. Magic is all about connecting with people in the best way possible. And I've just learned, I've had a lot of life lessons with magic and connecting with people that way. I think a lot of magicians are very, very, very talented, sleight of hand wise. So if you watch a YouTube video, you have these incredible magicians that are performing to the camera, just their hands, and it's amazing. But when you put them out, if you have them perform that same trick in front of an audience, it's a completely different ballgame, right? It's completely different. So I try to tell people that are just trying to get into magic, perform in front of a live audience as much as possible, and film yourself performing, because then you can kind of go back and figure out, oh, okay, I like what I did here, I like what I did there. Okay, oh wow, that's interesting. Why didn't they react there? I thought they were going to react.
And that's similar style to how comedians work through sets as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I have one. So whenever I give a keynote talk or whenever I have a show, I have one camera on me and then one camera on the audience, right? So then I can go back and say, okay, is the audience reacting when I want them to react? Are they laughing when I want them to laugh? Are they bored? Why are they are they having trouble seeing something that I can't see because the spotlight's on me up on stage? And then I'll go back. And what I'll do, I'll watch myself. So first off, I'll watch myself perform the whole video, and then I will watch myself on mute, and I'll just look at my nonverbal communication. Am I swaying too much? Is my hand? Am I doing too many hand gestures? My back turned towards the audience. When I do I act excited when I'm up there? And then I'll go back and I'll put the blank screen up on the screen, and I'll just listen to myself. Am I saying the right words? Am I stuttering? Am I saying this correctly? And I'll just listen to myself, because by doing that, you can study your verbal and your nonverbal communication separately, right? And then you watch it as a full and say, okay, now does everything actually match up? Am I, when I'm saying I'm really excited about something, a topic, am I actually acting that way, or am I using, like, for instance, I just had a keynote. Where was I? In San Diego. So I just came back from San Diego to a keynote, and I watched myself perform, and I realized that I used the word right a lot. So after I say a sentence or say a thought, I realized that I was like, wait a minute, I'm saying the word right or okay or something. It's a thing that we all do, and we don't realize until we review ourselves watching it. Some people say some people say but.
I think Owen and I can both attest to that watching the podcast.
We
and,
do say this. We're like, oh,
noticing certain things that we say too much, and
It's great because your podcast you can see it as well,
Right.
listening to it, and you can really kind of compare and contrast, which I think is great. And I think that's so important that a lot of people don't do, and I'm glad that you guys are doing it. You go back and rewatch yourself and analyze yourself. I'm constantly analyzing myself and what I'm doing. How I'm going to go back and watch this podcast and listen to this podcast and say, okay, did I say this right? Did I not do this right? What can I improve upon? Stuff like that. And while you're doing, you're constantly improving.
right.
Exactly. Yeah. It's never finished. That's the kind of the motto.
So going back to your original question, I think magic has definitely helped me with my communication skills, because magic is about communicating with people and connecting with people.
Right.
So actually, my next part of this question was, you had worked with this company and you developed tricks for them. And so do you walk through this psychological process? Like, because I assume this is for someone else to perform. You said these are tricks that maybe like a higher, like David Copperfield would like get this trick, like, or I don't know how the industry works in that sense. Like, do you buy the rights to a trick and then that's yours for the show and stuff? So do you have to write down that process, like where you want the audience to be, or is that something you in person have to sort of sell this trick and then pass it off and hope someone can kind of keep it alive themselves?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. So the way the magic industry works is, this is just one aspect of it. A magician, let's say I want to, actually I'm probably going to do this today, ironically. I film myself performing a trick, right, to an audience member or on camera, right? And then if someone wants to learn how to do that, they will buy the trick from me, and I would send them a video of how I perform it, or a book or something like that, right?
Okay.
So that's one way it works. It is tough because it's that blurry line of saying, if you develop a trick, you never published it publicly anywhere, and then someone else goes out there and performs your trick, well, there's no evidence that you were the first one to create it, right? Mm-hmm. And that's a really blurry line that magicians struggle with all the time, of giving who gets the rights and who gets the credit for something, right? And again, it could be something that and again, it is tough because magicians don't want to put their whole act up online, because that would defeat the whole purpose of the show. So then if another magician wants to create a trick and publish it and wants to credit someone, well, it's very hard for them to find another person doing the trick if no one's up, if it's not up there, right? So I think the best way to approach it is to give as much credit as possible when you are teaching someone else a trick, right? So if I was going to develop a trick, I'd be like, and then you buy it from me. I would say, okay, I was inspired by this person after watching this video, and then I adapted this because of this, and just give as much credit as possible. And you should be good to go if you do your research and give some credit. But yeah, it is a tough industry doing that. So I think I have some motorcycle driving by me. It is a tough industry because you have to really determine, if are you the first creator and things like that. But when you do, quote unquote, buy a trick from me and I do teach you a trick, I would say this is the method of how the trick works, and then here's the presentation of why it's effective, right? There's two different things between a method and a presentation, right? The method is saying maybe like the mechanics behind the trick itself, maybe the sleight of hand moves, right? And then the presentation is saying pretty much the scripting of it and how you're actually communicating it to the audience, right? And I always believe, I'm a very strong believer, that the most powerful, most successful magicians are really good at presentation, right? I can perform one trick to you, and you could have another magician perform the same exact trick to you, but if we present it differently, you could view the trick completely differently. You could say he's better than this, that was better than that one, right? Just based off the presentation, right? Based on the storyline I give you and stuff like that, right? So it is, so when I do try to teach a trick, I try to give the psychological subtleties of why it works and what wording you have to use, because the method and the presentation are completely two different things, but they both rely on each other as well. Yeah.
So
So
being that we cover sports, obviously I need to ask you about this. Before Owen told me about you, I'd never heard of any professional sports team having a team magician. So how did that come about? How did the Patriots reach out to you? How'd that happen?
Yeah, so what ended up happening, so I graduated from college, and I was just, looking for a job like anyone else would, and I saw a position open for the Patriots. It was for the digital content associate position.
Okay.
Well, I applied to be it, and they brought me in. They interviewed me. It was kind of helping with taking pictures of the players, interviewing them, helping with the website, kind of like digital content stuff. So then they realized that I was on my resume. I said I was a magician, so they realized I was a magician. So then I went in. The second time, they pretty much offered me the job. I said, yeah, for not the magician part, but the digital content part.
Right.
And then they were like, you know what? We think it'd be really cool content. Do you want to have your own show with the players? In addition to your digital content job. And I said, yeah, sure. That's if you that's gonna help, yeah, I'm more than happy to do that. So they called it Magic Moments. And so every week I would go down to the studio and I would perform with the player. I would perform a trick to the player, and they would take that video and they blast it on the social media and TV and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it was actually a lot harder than what people thought it was. So if you watch any of the videos,
yep.
In my opinion, some videos are better than others because some of those tricks were the first time I was actually performing those tricks live.
Oh, wow. Cool.
So go back to your whole communication thing. I go back to those videos, and some are like, oh my god, like wait, why I should have done this instead of this, and I'm a really big critic of myself. But I have to also kind of be a little softer on myself because I'm like, well, that was the first time I ever performed that trick to those players.
Right.
3 different reasons why. One is I wanted the tricks to be things that people have never seen before, which means I had to develop brand new material. Right. I didn't have to, but I wanted to. So I wanted to develop the material or the trick to be about the player. So I want the audience, the people at home, learning about the player, but through the magic. So, for instance, I did, when Chris Long used to be on the team,
yep.
He had a nonprofit called Water Boys, who would give water to people in other countries, clean water. So I created the whole trick around his nonprofit, right? Patrick Chung is actually originally from Jamaica. So yeah. I developed a trick around Jamaican-themed songs, right? So as the viewer is watching the trick, they're actually learning about the player as well through my magic. So that was one reason why I developed brand new material, because I wanted to be centered around the player. 2, I didn't want people to Google the trick, right? And be like, oh, how does that?
Right.
Like, if they've never seen it before, right? 3, it was very hard because with magic, you can, if I show you a trick on camera, you can rewind it and try to figure it out, right?
Yep.
So I had to develop tricks where people couldn't rewind it and try to figure it out. Which is actually very hard if you think about it.
I can imagine, yeah.
But to develop tricks that people can't rewatch the video in slow motion, like, oh, that's what he did it there, right? Like, it's pretty hard to develop tricks that are like that. And another reason it was pretty hard is because all those reasons combined, sometimes I didn't even know who the player was going to be until the day beforehand.
Oh, wow.
So imagine trying to develop a trick with all those factors I just told you, and trying to do all that in staying up to 3 o'clock in the morning, trying to develop a routine based off those factors, right? Yeah. And again, I don't know if it's a good trick or not because I've never done it before.
Right.
So I'm taking risks doing these tricks to these big NFL players, doing tricks I've never done before. I don't even know if they're good tricks or not because I want to create brand new material. So
yeah, that's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of they could be like, wow, that was it, right?
Yeah. Right.
It's crazy, right? And I don't know. So it was really fun to do. It was really fun, but a lot of pressure to actually do that as well. And I did learn a lot about my performance style as well, going back and watching those videos.
Yeah.
Oh wow, why did I do that there? I should have done this there. And I had those videos as a way to really revamp my act and revamp my personality and say, oh, okay, I like this, but wait, I should have done that there and did this again, because some of the tricks I literally was creating the night beforehand, right? But it was fun. So then kind of the media kind of gave me the nickname the Team Magician, after I did that. And part of my other job was, when the digital content job, I would go in the locker room and interview the players, and take pictures of the media interviewing them, stuff like that. So because I had my own show with them, the players knew me when I would go in the locker room, because they knew, they're like, oh, you literally just perform magic, whatever, right? So I started to get to know the players on a personal basis, and
would they sorry to interrupt, but you got to know some of these guys before you did tricks for them, right? So then, is that the case? So some of them would be sort of anticipating your trick that you'd be doing for them?
Yeah, some of them were. Yeah, so some of them knew me before they would come to the studio and I would do tricks for them, and some of them didn't know who I was until I performed magic to them, right? So
okay.
So it's kind of both, so they could know me either way. But
were they aware that these were original tricks every time, or did they think you were just pulling from an infinite bag? Just curious how you were presenting it, like in that case.
So I don't know. That's a very good question. I don't know. I was trying to make it themed around them, so they probably knew I was a magician, and I don't know what their thought process was, if they knew that these were brand new tricks or they weren't. Another funny thing is that these big macho football players, they're great guys, but, and I learned this, that magic works better with more people. So in other words, if I did one trick to someone and there was 10 people around them, they're all going to react, right? Because magic is, if you're not the audience member, most likely people are reacting based off of your reaction, right? So it's a big domino effect. If I do a trick to someone and they'd be like, wait, what? Their friend next to them would be like, oh my God, whatever, then they're going to laugh at that. It's a big domino effect.
Right.
But when I'm doing this to one person in a studio setting and all the cameras are on them, it can seem very awkward for them, right?
Yeah.
You could be like, well, okay, like, wow, that was cool. Should I react? Should I not react? Right? So over time, I realized, like, the people who were doing the cameras, I was like, keep rolling. Just tell them that's the end of it, but just keep rolling, because a lot of times they would react like you see in the videos, and then right when they knew the cameras were off, they'd be like, okay, no, holy shit, how the after you just do that, like, seriously, right?
Yeah.
And that's when their true persona will come out, when they know that they're not on camera.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. Because there is some pressure on them too, because I'm sure they're kind of thinking like, I want to look like I knew how that trick happened or something. And
Exactly.
they are trying to like process everything, and then they think cameras are off, and that's, like you were saying, that's where the organic comes out.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's the thing. So it was really cool. It was a really cool thing. I got to perform to Brady in the locker room.
Yeah. How was that? How did Tom receive the magic trick?
It was cool. It was really cool. It was.
Yeah.
I just did a. I didn't do anything crazy. I just did a simple routine that someone would be, oh, show me a trick. I just did.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh man, you really liked him. He was like, yeah, keep up the good work. And I said, you too, Tom. You keep up the good work.
You too. Yeah, you too. You're doing great.
You're doing great. No, but he really liked it. So
nice.
It was good. It was.
Was that especially nerve-wracking doing it for him?
I think no matter. I think you could be doing magic. You could be. It depends whatever you're doing in life. You could be doing for 50 years. It could be magic. It could be acting. It could be playing a musician, right? Any type of performance art, you're going to be nervous, right?
Yeah.
No matter what you're doing, and no matter how long you've been doing it, right? There's always that little. You could have as much confidence in the world. There's still going to be that 1 ounce of nervousness, right?
Right.
And I've just been performing for so long that it was. I performed to other celebrities beforehand.
Yeah.
It was kind of just a natural thing for me, performing to him. But he was there. It was him, LeGarrette Blount, Jacoby Brissett when he was on the team. He loved the magic. He was trying to figure it out all the time. It was really funny. And then Malcolm Mitchell and I became pretty close.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so he goes on tour all the time promoting youth literacy.
Yeah, he's an interesting guy. I remember reading about him when he was with the Patriots and
Yeah, so
the
I
cool
actually
things
go
he
on
did.
tour with him now.
Oh wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
So him and I became pretty close. So wherever he does an appearance, I go as well, and I do the magic, and then he does whatever he does as well.
Wow.
So we've been tag teaming for a while, but that's how we got connected.
Yeah.
He came on one of the episodes. I made one of his playing cards end up in a chip bag, in a Doritos bag.
Yeah.
So he thought that was awesome. So then he connected with me, and yeah, it was cool. It was cool. So that's
is awesome.
I took off. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Pretty
yeah.
cool.
And is he? I think there's some. You mentioned charity work with those players. Have you done any hands-on work? Because I think I've seen something on your website where you were somewhere on site with players doing charity work. Am I correct in thinking that, or am I just?
Well, yeah. So Malcolm Mitchell and he does a lot of charity work. So I do a lot
Oh,
of
this was it. Okay.
charity work with him as well. But I've done stuff for other. So sometimes whenever they have like a charity or organization, they'll reach out to me and I'll do some magic for them. Yeah. But no, yeah. So I don't. So that was it. I forget how long. No, that's maybe 2 years ago. I did that. But I still stay in contact with them and stuff like that. But I realized just working through them that my real passion was this creativity, developing new tricks and developing, building, trying to develop new routines and connecting with people and the whole creativity process. So it was really fun just kind of doing all that stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that is pretty fun. And I imagine you quickly developing a relationship with those players. You must have been a little starstruck in the beginning, or maybe not. But I feel like as you come closer to them, that's where you were able to really develop that relationship. And obviously, you ran with it. That's awesome.
And that's the thing. Once you get to know these players, you realize that they're just a normal person.
Right. Yeah.
You get football, and that's all it is, right? And that's what it is. The more I just talk to them, I realize, they have a family, they have struggles that they're going through as well. They're just one of us, but they're just really good at football. That's
Right.
the only difference. And that's what it is when you just talk to celebrities and you performance celebrities and hang out with them. That's what you realize, oh wow, you're just like everyone else, but you're just really good at whatever skill you're good at, and then that's what you realize. And then magic is a great way to kind of break that ice too, to make everyone just kind of feel more together, right?
Mm-hmm.
To me, when I perform magic, to me, I don't think that the trick I do is the magic itself. I think what's more magical is everyone that I'm performing to, with all their different backgrounds and life experiences and struggles and ethnicities and all this stuff, coming together to enjoy a common moment in life.
Right.
To me, that's the magic.
That's
right?
what I love. That's what I love about sports and a lot of things, honestly.
Exactly.
Just anything that brings people together.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I've always believed that magic isn't about fooling people or tricking people. To me, magic is simply anything in life that you thought was impossible become impossible.
Right.
And that's anything in life, right? So let's say you're a college student who just took an exam, right? And you're oh my god, I bombed that, right? There's no way. It'd be impossible if I pass that, right? And you get it back and you get a B. That's magic right there.
Yeah.
Right? And these types of things happen to us every single day. It just depends on how much we can recognize that these little magic miracles happen every day. If we can start appreciating it more, I think the world will be a much better place.
Absolutely.
And that's why I think the power of sports, the power of magic, the power of all these different events that are going on, they bring people together that really want to communicate otherwise if it wasn't for that event. And to me, that process is the magic itself. I'm not doing the magic. You are performing the magic. Yeah.
Interesting.
So speaking of achieving the impossible, I'm surprised I haven't mentioned this yet. You have a book, and the book is called. Is it called "Impossible is Just a Word," or it's?
So it's not titled that. So ironically, it's not, because I probably should have titled it that, because I use it so much. But it's called The Perfect Illusion.
Right.
So essentially it's 20 chapters, and within those 20 chapters, it's divided into two. So each chapter is divided into two parts. One is taking a life, kind of a life lesson, how to find your passion in life, either, or maybe it's about growing up or something like that. Maybe looking at it from a different angle that really isn't what people really typically look at. And then the other half of the chapter is get to learn a trick. So it's pretty cool. So you're reading the book, kind of learning different things about life and how to look at things from a little different perspective. But you also kind of learn how to be a magician as well, by learning these tricks too.
Yeah.
So that's one book, and then the other book I wrote is more for business leaders that I think I talked about beforehand, where I did a lot of studying about decision making and innovation and creativity, and that's more about these these case studies or these habits that these successful people use to look at things differently and how to apply it to your own personal life. So that one is more mainly about like educational value, but the first one is mainly about, these tricks that, some tricks are harder than others, but it's more like get to learn a lot of more magic based. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
About how
That's
long
awesome.
did it take you to write those books?
Yeah. So the first book, probably 5 years for each of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's something you had in the works for a while.
Yeah. The first one was more magic related. I was trying to debate, should I have it more magic related or more like perspective related?
Yeah.
And I felt like people. So I've learned over the years, people are naturally drawn to entertainment over education, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if I said,
100%.
okay,
Yeah.
right, like it's just over the years I realized that, if I said, okay, you have a whole day to yourself, you can do whatever you want, I guarantee you people are gonna like watch Netflix or YouTube, right? Like when we relax, like our brains are naturally drawn to entertainment,
Yep.
Not education. So I realized that the best way to promote the book is if you're learning about magic meaning the entertainment part, right?
Yep.
So I was trying to integrate. I said, okay, I want to develop 20. I want to teach 20 tricks, but I also know that the people that are going to buy my book aren't going to be magicians. So they're going to be people who either know nothing about magic, or they want to just learn a few tricks, or maybe they're kind of intermediate magician. They know a few tricks, they want to learn a little bit more. But I knew that professional, like David Copperfield, right? He's not going to buy my book, right? Yeah. So I realized, okay, that's my target audience. So I put tricks in there that, some are really easy to do, but some of them are a little bit hard to do. So then, depending on what skill level you're at, you can get a little bit of what you want out of that, out of the book. Yeah. And with the second book is really mainly about innovation, creativity, entrepreneurship. And those are mainly for maybe like CEOs or entrepreneurs or companies that are trying to build their brand, but right. in a unique way as well. Yeah. Yeah.
And you 100% authored both of those books, and you'd written the first one, I believe, in high school, right? Did that publish in high school also, or?
Yeah. So good memory. So I would go to school early every day, like an hour early, and I would sit in the library, and I would write the book before school every day. And,
wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I actually dedicated the book to my parents, and they didn't know I was writing a book. So
wow.
I gave the published version to them for Christmas one year. It was pretty cool because they're like, wait a minute, I thought school started at 6 o'clock. And I'm like, no, I just, because I was telling them I was leaving school.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Wow.
So it was great. But
that is awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. So, but yeah, so I wrote the first book, kind of the transition from high school to college, kind of the life lessons I've learned as being a magician, stuff like that. So going back now, I probably changed a few things here and there, just because, my philosophy may have changed, or maybe I'll catch a few spelling errors or something like that. But the gist of it, you get to still learn 20 tricks. Yeah.
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 Well, I mean, incredible feat. And I guess just to circle back, I had mentioned just like impossible is just a word. Writing a book in high school. I remember just hearing about that at the time, thinking like, who's written a book like in high school? I don't
That's
know
pretty
anyone.
crazy. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
That's
I
I mean,
it was good.
that takes a lot of discipline for a high school kid, for sure.
It really does. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, yeah. No, it was good. I had one draft, and then in high school, and then I worked on a little bit in college as well, kind of taking what I learned in college and applying to it. Because, and I had a lot of people proofread it as well, because I knew that no one would buy a book that a high schooler wrote.
Yeah.
Because people are like, well, what does he know about life?
Right,
You know,
right.
high school, right? So that was a tough thing to sell. So I realized, well, okay, if I include these magic tricks in there that any age level can learn, that would give them an excuse, like, oh, actually, you know what? Yeah, I'll buy the book, right? Because I get to learn magic tricks. So again, it goes back to business, right? Essentially, who's your target audience, and how do you really advertise towards them in a way, right? So I knew the product was the book, but I realized, okay, well, what are this? People aren't going to buy it because I'm in high school or I'm in college. So how could I get customers? Okay, well, I can draw them to the match component, right? So that's the thing. I think the teaching the tricks definitely has helped people. And it's funny, I like a beard now, and I look so much older now compared to the cover of the book.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny. I mean, hey, we all grow.
Exactly. So. Yeah. Exactly. I probably, if I read it again, I'd be like, oh, why did I say that? But something I probably still have. But it's again, you have to learn 20 tricks. I think people walk away with some sort of value. Yeah.
Right. Did you ever have any encounters with Bill Belichick? I just had to ask.
Yeah. So he I've never talked to him personally, but we've walked by each other a bunch of times.
Okay.
He's very just like heads down, just like
yeah.
I hope you guys did one of those like head nods.
Yeah.
I think we probably have. I think I was in the time we walked in, and we kind of just give each other like a little head nod.
Oh,
well,
yeah. Maybe a fist bump, a quick high five, butt slap. That's like the best thing that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Making him smile would be the ultimate magic trick.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
He only smiles when he wins Super Bowls.
That's exactly right. Yeah. If he even makes it to the Super Bowl and they lose,
yeah. No, that's the only time I've seen him smile.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how well Brady does in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it won't be as magical, but it's
it
all
won't be as magical.
I know.
I heard they don't have a team magician, so.
Yeah, maybe I'll give him a call.
Please, no, stay here.
Yeah, I always say it was the year that they came back 28-3 when I was a magician. So my whole thing is, it's like, when they were down 28-3, all these experts were saying it'd be impossible for them to come back and win. It'd be amazing. They need some sort of magic. You're welcome.
Oh, okay.
There you go, dude. That is awesome.
Wow, you're responsible for the comeback.
It's a great storyline, but that was the same year that I did it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, actually.
Oh, wow. We actually should make some clip montage of that. Is it not already? That would be great.
Yeah. It was pretty funny. Everyone was like, oh my God, it was a team magician. The one year they had the team magician is like, he kicked back and he had the magic. So that was funny. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What else we got?
So actually, sorry, what was the title of your second book?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so it's Magic Behind Success.
Magic Behind Success.
Yeah, I haven't advertised it as much, but that's what my keynote is mainly about. When I do these leadership keynotes, it's based around that book. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, folks, check them out. The Perfect Illusion, Life, and The Magic Behind Success. Sorry, did I just forget that?
No, that's it.
And those books are available on Amazon?
So I would probably suggest going to my website and doing it. JohnDukeLogan.com. Yeah.
JohnDukeLogan.com.
Yeah, or impossible.com.
Okay.
They go right to my website.
Awesome. Straight from the source.
Right from those, because then I can sign it too. Because Amazon has like an inventory and stuff.
Yeah.
I can like, if I have, but I also have a bunch of minimum choice. So once I get the notification that you bought one, I can sign and I can say
Yeah.
yes as well. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, even better. Yeah.
yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, I think we're coming up on an hour. I don't know. Are there any other topics we were trying to get to? I think we hit everything. Is there
I think
anything
we hit everything.
Is there anything in particular you wanted to shout out, John?
I don't think so. Whatever you want to talk about, I'm more than happy to talk about. Any questions you have for me?
I guess so yeah, real quick, a couple things I wanted to ask. Which player was most interested in the Magic when you were on?
I was going to ask the same thing. Was it Brissett, Jacoby Brissett?
Jacoby. So it's funny. So when this happens whenever I perform with people, everyone reacts differently, right? So you're not going to react the same compared to someone else, right? So, and you have the range of the scale of how you react, right? Where Jacoby was very like, I would do something to him, he would be like, do it again. Like he was trying to figure it out, right?
Yeah, yeah.
He never did, but he was very focused, like trying to figure it out, right? So like whenever I would go in the locker room, he'd be like, all right, show me something. I need to figure it out. Like, and that's
cool.
He was really intrigued that way. Devin McCourty really liked it, but Devin McCourty reacted differently, where he would actually like run around like, oh my God, like run around the locker room like screaming. But it's completely two different scales, So everyone knew I did Magic, but they all react a little bit differently and stuff like that. Yeah.
How did LeGarrette Blount react?
He liked it. Yeah, he liked it a lot too. He was kind of in that middle ground where he wanted to figure it out, but he was like, "What?" Like he was trying to figure it out. But he was still really excited too.
Yeah.
So he really liked it too. So again, everyone reacts a little bit differently.
Right.
And that's the thing. So again, everyone reacts differently. Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, I prematurely was like, we're coming up on the hour, but I was curious. What are your next goals? Like, what is your next step as far as like your whether it's keynote speaking or just the career in general? Like, where do you see yourself going right now?
Yeah, so right now it's kind of tough to do any events.
Yep.
Oh, right.
Yep.
We haven't even addressed that. Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about how the quarantine life is going for you.
So it's really interesting because a lot of magicians right now are adapting or kind of panicking. I mean, like, oh, we can do events, and they're actually moving their shows to be virtual. So for instance, like I'd actually be doing a show to you guys right now.
Right.
So which I can do, but I like having that one-on-one connection.
Yeah.
I like being in the room. I like feeding off people's energy. I like again. Oh, it's like me rubbing a card against your knee, right? Like it doesn't. To me personally, just doesn't get that same like wow effect.
Yeah, because
people are all in the same room, right?
Yeah, and people always have the out of saying like, oh, like there's always movie magic, like you could have done something with the video or like there's always that chance. And people can record it and then rewind it back. When it's live, like it happened and you can't go back unless you had recorded it.
Great point. Yeah. So some magicians have been adapting their shows to be virtual, which nothing wrong with that. I just feel like my show is more powerful when it is in the same room as everyone else.
Yeah.
So what I've been doing lately is really focusing, because a lot of people don't realize there's a lot of behind the scenes that magicians have. I think I touched upon this, a little bit earlier, where being a magician isn't just going up there for 60 minutes to perform a show, right? There's a lot of scripting and transitions from one trick to another, and how to make this trick actually relate to the audience, and that's just the show itself, right? But then there's also the business side of your website, right? Your demo reel, how to, social media content, right? So it's just not a magician going up there doing a whole show. There's a lot of behind the scenes that I was doing. So I'm using this time where I haven't, I don't have a lot of my shows got rebooked for the fall. So I'm using this time just to revamp I just did my demo reel, my new demo reel like a few weeks ago. So I have a new demo reel up on my website. I've been doing a lot of more blog posting. Kind of doing like my finances, right? Kind of planning out my social media calendar. So I think a lot of magicians now are really jumping to, oh my God, I don't have any shows booked. Okay, I have to move my shows online, which is fine, which is okay. I'm doing it as a way of, okay, let me get all the other things done.
Right. Yeah. Kind of gives you an opportunity to focus on things that you didn't have time to focus on before.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So then when people, again, this is with anything in life, especially in the entertainment industry, people are going to spend, if you're an event organizer, if you're going to spend money on someone, you're going to want to find out as much about them to see if it's worth it, right? So they're going to Google you, right?
Yep.
And see, okay, what does he have online, or what's going on, what's going on, right? So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to build that presence so they can see all my blog posts, they can see the videos. I'm going back through old content that I captured years ago and repurposing it. And so I'm just really utilizing my time to do stuff like that, more like kind of the business side of things. Yeah. But yeah, going back to your original question, what am I doing right now? I think that's what's next for me. I'm doing that right now. I actually work for a video production company in Boston called New View Media, and we edit a lot of videos as well for different brands. We do a lot of advertising for them. So just kind of doing more of that type of stuff. I love doing what I do. I love performing magic, but I also like helping people kind of build their brand and different unique advertising techniques and different things like that. And one thing, one technique that I talk about in my keynote is how to develop new ideas. If I said the word magician to you, most likely you think of a bunny in a hat, right? Very stereotypical. That's what people think about, right? So I call that the opposite object concept, right? If you think about someone hundreds of years ago was sitting down, they had their pet bunny and they had their hat, and they said, well, what if I could show my hat empty, do some weird magical gesture and pull out a pet bunny, right? Mm-hmm. So I said, how can you integrate that opposite object concept into your business as well? So if let's say I want you to think of a new product that has to do with a clock and a bracelet, right? Two things that have nothing to do with each other, a clock and a bracelet, but if you merge them together, it's a watch.
Yeah.
Right. Or another thing you could do is, changing one word to an existing thing that you do. So, there's a trick I do in my show where I'll have someone take out a card. They'll put it back they'll sign the card, they'll put it back in the middle of the deck. I'll take the deck, I'll throw it at a cup on stage, and their card will land inside the cup, right? Yeah. So if we condense that, it's card to cup. Let's just change one word. Rather than card to cup, let's say we do card to wall. Okay, so I take the cards off the wall, they get stuck to their card gets stuck to the wall. Okay, that's a good trick. Well, rather than card to wall, why don't we do card in wall? Okay, so their card gets stuck inside the wall. Okay, rather than card in wall, why don't we do phone in wall? So what if I took your phone and it disappeared and all of a sudden it's inside the wall, right? So we went to card to cup to phone and wall, right?
Yeah.
By changing one word. Right. So
this is like the Manatee episode of South Park when they were making fun of Family Guy almost.
Oh, really?
You know what I mean? Yeah, they have they just push different word balls into 3 slots, and it's this is the joke. They make it those are the.
I'll have to check that out. That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell people is there something out there already? If right, Instagram, right? Instagram's business model is unlimited photo time, right? Well, if you change one word, rather than unlimited photo time, you have limited photo time. That's Snapchat.
Right.
Okay.
Right? So
that is really interesting. You could actually do a great that. This could be a really good visual, just a quick video where you'd put those words up and then show and then you're oh, okay, yeah, because I'm seeing it as you're explaining it to me. Maybe it is better as with a person explaining it because you paint the picture as you're saying it.
Yeah. So that's actually one part I talk about in my keynote is that concept, that opposite object concept. I mean, they have opposite object, but then we have that change one word concept, right? So now, can you something you guys do now? Can you change one word and it can be completely different, right? And I don't know anything off the top of my head, according to the podcast here, but, just different ways that you can just think about how to utilize what you currently have to make it something completely different. Which is pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Well, it's fun. I get to integrate the magic while also integrating, the techniques I just told you. So you kind of see the power.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you had mentioned earlier, I believe this was off camera, that that you're a videographer. Do you ever use the power of video, like or like I'd mentioned before, the magic of the movies to enhance a trick where it may appear more magical than it would have live, like, so you can do some extra stuff?
It's funny. So I personally don't. So if I'm going to film anything, and then film a trick, and then either with an audience or without an audience, I try not to use cuts because people can assume that. But if you watch TV, if you watch magic on TV, be very skeptical of watching magic on TV because they can do that type of stuff, right? So it's not the same, right? So they can cut some stuff. They can put some pieces together where the trick looks absolutely incredible. But in reality, it's really a simple trick, right?
Yeah.
So magic isn't really good for TV, basically.
So it's a tough balance because a lot of magicians want to have magic on TV.
Yeah.
It's also that thing. It's like, well, you have a lot of more resources for TV magic because you can cut. Right. You know what I mean?
How credible is Chris Angel?
Uh-oh.
So some of the, I would say, I think he does both. So he is a good magician.
Okay.
He does, because clearly he's very successful in what he does. But I think he also does take advantage of the TV magics too. So it's like he's good at both, And so really with David Blaine became popular, kind of using that change one word concept actually. So David Blaine, he changed the game for magic. A lot of the magic before him on TV was focused on the magician. What he ended up doing is focusing on the audience members and the reaction. So if you look at the kind of technique I just told you, the change one word concept, if we took that, focus on magician, this is be focused on audience, right? The same concept, right? So if you watch his TV specials compared to other TV specials, a lot of what he does, I do a lot of stuff in my show as well, but he focuses on the audience's reaction, right? And by doing that, it's actually very similar to game shows. Because when you see the reaction, you feel like that you're there with them, right? And again, like what I said beforehand, people, most likely if you're in a group of people are reacting to other people's reactions. They are reacting to the trick, but it's a combination of what they just saw, how they perceive the trick, combined with the people that they're with and their reactions, right?
Yeah, because it sort of confirms you're like, did I just think, like, is that what I thought I saw? Okay, everyone is amazed by it. So, yes, that is what happened. Yeah.
So a lot of what he does on his first TV special, he became really well known for his magic on TV because the camera was on the audience's reaction. So that naturally drew us in as an audience member, is saying, wow, like, oh my God, this is really, like, you're laughing as a reaction, right? The same thing with game shows. Game shows, the most successful game shows, if you think about Family Feud or Jeopardy, right? Our brains are naturally drawn to those types of shows because we feel like that when they ask the question on TV, our brain is already thinking what we were going to say, right? Yeah. Like, oh, well, this could be an answer. Well, this could be an answer. We feel like we're part of the show as well. Even though we're not there, we feel like we're still part of the show, right? And that's what I think, that's what David Blaine did very successfully, is he made it feel like the viewers were part of the show as well, even though they weren't there. Yeah. So again, there's a lot of psychology behind magic. It's just not about performing these tricks. It's a lot of different psychological subtleties to integrate to compared to one, trick. Two magicians can perform the same exact trick, but one magician can be really more successful compared to the other one because of these little psychological subtleties that they integrate. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's all about the way you deliver it and the way you interact with people, basically.
Exactly. It's all about presentation. That's what it's all about presentation. You have a very, very simple trick. And if you present it in a very in an effective way, it can be very, very successful. And it'll be a miracle, even though the method itself is very, very simple. Right. And that's the tough part. You can get a very simple method, but then how do you create that presentation to make the trick look incredible, even though the method is very simple, right?
Is that the hardest part, you would say?
I would say that. I would definitely say that's the hardest part. Kind of saying, did I talk about the top-down and bottom-up strategies?
No, I don't think so.
Nope.
So there's two different ways. This could be applied to anything in life, but so we have this top-down strategy of saying, okay, here's the ultimate vision of what I want to achieve, right? And then you work backwards. So let's say in a magician's case, I want to saw someone in half. Okay, that's what I want to happen. Now, how do we work backwards to make that happen, right? Well, let's say in your case, you want to run a marathon, right? That's the ultimate goal. And then you work backwards. Okay, I have to wake up every day early. I have to run a few 5K road races. I have to go to the gym, right? You work backwards. Or you could do this bottom-up technique, which is saying, okay, what of our team's strengths, weaknesses? What does the data tell us? What's our knowledge? What's the tools, the resources in front of us? How do we combine everything together to make something amazing, right? So it depends what way you want to think. So in terms of magician, it's like, okay, I know all these sleight of hand moves. I know, I have this resource. I know I'm good at this. I know I'm not that good at this. Okay, how do I put all these pieces together to create something really, really amazing? Or you can say, okay, I know I want to achieve this. Okay, now how can I achieve that? I know that's going to be the end result. Now, how can I achieve that? So again, that can be applied to anything in life, but that's how my brain thinks in terms of developing magic. So once you figure out so it's essentially it's like you have the effect, which is what the audience sees.
Yeah.
You have the method, the technical aspect of it, of how it actually is accomplished, and then you have the presentation aspect of it, of essentially the communication of how you're presenting the trick, which I always believe this is the most important part of how you actually connecting with your audience. Yeah, because that can make or break everything else. Yeah.
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 It's kind of similar to with music, it's all about how you connect with the audience, and it's
exactly
more so than just your talent on stage. It's more how you're getting the audience involved. I think with a lot of forms of entertainment, that's probably the case.
And that's the thing. I've been listening to this band called AJR lately.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know them actually. Yeah, I know a couple songs by them.
They're so good. I remember I was on a run one day. Oh, and it was actually at the cross country field, the cross country course at the high school. And this last year. And I put them I know a few songs. I'll just listen to their album. And I'm a huge Beatles guy. I am obsessed with the Beatles. I think they're the greatest band of all time.
Yeah.
I personally believe that AJR's writing is better than the Beatles.
Wow.
The way that they use puns and the way they connect with the audience, they connect with the listener. Mm-hmm. And I literally stopped as I was running, and I just literally sat down and I was listening to every single song. I'm like, this is absolutely amazing. It just gave me chills. And so I follow them on Twitter, and they're absolutely amazing. But they tweeted the other day, and I thought it was very clever. They said the most successful songwriters do two things. They make it relatable,
and
they make it original.
Yeah.
And a lot of songwriters, or a lot of artists in general, they can be really good at one,
right,
but other, but very rarely is a band good at both.
Right.
Right. And I think that's what comes down to. How can you make it original and relatable, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's how people become really successful is checking those two things off. So yeah, because you can be really really creative. You can be really really original and innovative. But if no one can connect to it,
right,
useless. Or the other end, you can really connect with people what makes you different, right?
Right.
So you have to really be, have those two things in common. Yeah.
Yeah, those are definitely key components.
Yeah. So this is the same thing with magic. How do you make it relatable but also original enough where people will remember you, but make it
Right.
relatable that they feel it's personal. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and even like a certain rewatchability, or in music's case re-listenability, like something you can go back and see the subtleties of, like, oh, that's why they mentioned this lyric first, and now we came into this next part of the song, and like you could even see that in a magic act, like, oh, he had you go over there, so now we could, like, even though that's not necessarily exposing the trick, but you can see where you were directing people so that like such and such could happen. So there is definitely like an orchestration that I think
Oh, it
makes
totally
it,
is. And
yeah.
then that's the tough part about filming magic and posting your magic online or act online, because again, people can go back and rewind it and be like, oh, okay, that's why he said that. Okay, that's why he's gonna say, oh, okay, this has to do with the method, right? So it's tough because you have to do it. The toughest thing, and one toughest thing in magic is making everything look natural.
Mm.
And that's a very, very tough thing to do. If I'm doing some sort of sleight of hand move, how do I make it so the person doesn't think I'm actually doing a sleight of hand move, right? And the most successful magicians have to be that way. If I do something clunky with my hand, they're like, okay, he just did something there. Or,
Yeah.
he did something, right? How do you make it so you make it you make it relatable, or you make it natural, right? And that's why magic is so successful. And that's why most successful magicians make things look natural, right? And you're doing extraordinary things with ordinary objects, right? And that's the best part about magic. But again, it goes back, to what you just said, Owen. It's like, how do you, if I want someone to stand over here compared to standing over there, well, what's the reason I'm giving them to stand over there, right? And if I need them to stand over there, now we need to think of a reason why it's natural for them to stand over there compared to over here, so the audience doesn't think that I want them to stand over there.
Exactly, yeah.
Right? So it's a lot of psychology that has to do with magic. And the most successful magicians, understand that. That they have to understand that to make their show look natural. So people are like, oh my god, like, there could be something that the guy did, but the audience doesn't think that that's part of the trick.
Yeah.
Right?
Because people like to feel that they have some control over the situation. So if you're just like, give me your left hand, hold your finger out, like, do this, stand there, one leg, and like, now they're like, okay, he's setting something up. Like, I don't know what's going on. And then, but if they feel like, oh, well, I'm just going to stand here and wait for you to do your thing, hands in my pocket, and then all of a sudden, like, they pull out a bowling ball out of their pocket, and you're like, oh my God.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing, the more like you perform that, I think that again it goes back to the more you want to master something, the more you just have to do it, right? Like a beginner wasn't or a master wasn't a master in the first day they tried something, right? It's like they're mastered because of constantly trial and error, and like, it's like if I have an audience that's surrounding me, and I can't have the person on my left-hand side see what I'm about to do, then how do I make him? How do I make it so, like, if their eyes are burnt in my hands, maybe I'll be like, oh, and what was your name again? As I'm turning, I'm doing that sort of that sleight of hand move.
Yeah.
Right? Making it look natural. Now no one even knew I did the move, but I needed some sort of cover to cover the move, right?
Are you familiar with the show Sneaky Pete at all? Do you know the show?
I watched a few episodes of it. And I kind of faded over it, but I did like it. I watched the first few episodes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because I mean, that one's like movie magic. Obviously, you can't like do all the stuff they're doing, but it's just like sleight of hand, like taking watches off people, like slipping stuff in people's jackets and stuff. It's pretty, and it's a lot of things like that where he'll turn and be like, oh, what was the name of that waiter? Like, and then they're like not realizing what he was doing, and it's like fancy. It's I mean, that's like more criminal, but it is
That's what
interesting.
pickpocketers are. Yeah, that's what pickpocketers. There's so many.
Yeah.
The reason pickpocketers are so successful is because they make things look natural, right? And that's the whole thing. It's like that you have to make everything just look natural, and that's what it comes down to. Yeah.
So basically, magic is way more than just learning tricks and executing them. Like that's
there's a lot of psychology behind it
yeah.
in terms of the words you say, how your body's interacting,
Yeah.
how you have the audience, even the layout of the audience. Do you want them in a semicircle? Do you want them to have stadium seating, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to turn to the left or turn to your right, right? Why do I have my table on the right instead of the left? There's a lot of psychology that, in the audience's point of view, it would go way over the head. They wouldn't think
Right.
of it. But why? Even it could be so simple as people are coming in, sitting, taking their seats for your show. What type of music are you playing, right? That even sets the mood for the show, right? If you're playing classic music and Mozart, right, and all of a sudden you get up on stage and you're more of a street performer that's doing more like hip hop magic, that's going to throw their whole mind off. Like, wait, you know what I mean?
Right.
So even it can be as simple as the music you're playing, the advertisements that you're showing, the font that you're using for your advertisements, right? It's all these little things that really add up to how people see you, and that's just not even in math. That's just in life in general. But I think magicians are really good at understanding psychology and perception. And again, that's what my keynotes are about. How do you take the principles that magicians use and apply them into a real life setting, right?
Right.
And so you mentioned, like, if you had conflicting music, like at the beginning of a show, is that like the intended result? Like, do you want to throw people off before the show, or is that something like you might want to, I guess, so this kind of leads me into another thing where if you had like, if the audience was so curious, like, well, let me just finish the first thought of just the music. Like, if you had it, would you maybe want the audience to be frazzled at the beginning of the show? And I guess that all depends on how you want to put your show on. So, like, if
it depends. But again, like if you are a magician who is doing a show at a very fancy gala in a very suit and tie, right, and you're very and just like very like suit and tie professional type,
buttoned up, that makes sense,
down, right, very formal in the way you approach things. You're not going to have Eminem playing in the background as people are walking into the show, right? You're going to probably have some classical Mozart music, right? Where my style is very modern. I make fun of pop culture. I make fun of myself. I feel like I want all the audience to just have like a good time. It's a very just modern, laid back. Everyone's having a good time. We're all in this together type of vibe. So I play like tropical remixes, like Kygo, that type of music, right? Because that's just that fits my personality. That fits my show theme, right?
Yeah.
Maybe songs that everyone recognizes, maybe a little twist to them, right? And that's just my style, right? Maybe I'll throw in some New Orleans jazz, kind of good feel type of songs, right? That's what my whole show is about. It's kind of this good vibe feel to it. Making people laugh and whatever. And I want people to leave my show being like, wow, that was pretty good. I feel like refreshed. Like it's not like you working out, and after you work out, you're like, okay, I feel good. Like that type of mindset. I like when people leave my show that type of mindset as well. Saying, wow, I feel that was a good refresh, like a reset button. And I think playing these type of good vibe type of songs, it
sets the tone.
People walking in, yeah.
Definitely gives those good vibrations. So feel free to say no comment, but I was curious. I feel like I have to ask. How have you ever had an audience member that wasn't a magician like figure out a trick like while you were there?
Yeah. So there are a lot of lines I use. I think a lot of magicians, and I was this when I was younger, I would make it about myself, right? So this is the philosophy of making the magic about the magician, right? Which isn't the right, in my opinion, isn't the right way to approach it, but this is how a lot of magicians think, is saying, I'm going to do a trick and I'm going to try to fool you and all this type of stuff. And if you have that mindset, and then someone does figure out your trick, you instantly go into this defensive mode and saying, oh, no, that's not how I did it. Like, oh, okay, let me show you something else, right? And you instantly want to up them, right? You want to up. So what you're saying is there's two different ways. You can have someone that figured it out, or you can have what's called a heckler, right? It's saying, oh, I don't want that card. I want a different card. Well, let me shuffle up the deck, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So what I learned over the years, I used to be that type of magician who would say, okay, well, let me do another one. I'll one up you and see, we're competing for this kind of superior figure in the room, right?
Yeah.
And throughout the years, I realized that many people don't actually like magicians because they can come off as, I know something you don't know and I feel superior, right? So I've changed my mentality over the years and making it we're all in this together, right? So if someone says, oh, I know how you did that, I may be like, oh, I don't know. All right, okay, well, don't tell anyone, we're okay, or something maybe like, oh, I know how you did that. It's like, oh, I know how I did it too, but we'll keep it between us two, okay?
Yeah,
right?
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Saying that, now they're on your side. They feel like, cool, I'm with a magician now.
Like,
Right,
you got
right,
a secret with someone. Yeah, that's
Right.
important.
And they're like, okay, cool. Like me and the magician know something. You guys.
And that is unique. I feel like a lot of magicians definitely don't do that, because I have kind of felt that way, that magicians, they just have these secrets, that nobody else knows what they're doing, but they all know. They all understand.
Exactly. And like,
Yeah.
even if people go like, oh, I know how you do that trick. They're like, oh, cool. You did. Okay, I'll teach you some more afterwards, right?
Yeah.
Great. So now you instantly, now they're on your side. You guys are on the same team now, per se.
Yeah.
You're not trying to compete against them. You put it in their mind that, wow, I just figured I'm really smart. I just figured out the magician's trick.
Right.
Cool,
Boost their ego a little bit.
Yeah, so you kind of boost their ego, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's just a little thing I've realized over the years. Again, I used to be that type of magician where I'd be like, oh no, that's not how I did it. Okay, no, right? Like,
Yeah.
but now I view it more as a learning lesson and say, okay, well maybe, and again, I've had people be like, oh, I know how you did that, right? And they could be way off, right? Like that's no way that's not how.
Yeah.
Right? But I want them to feel like, oh yeah, okay, well don't tell anyone. Okay, we'll
Yeah.
our little secret, right? But I also use that as a learning lesson, right? Because magicians can be very defensive in a way. They can be like, okay, well, I view it as a way of, if they think that that's how the trick is done, then that's how the trick is done. Let me expand on that, right? So if a person is watching my show and they say, oh, okay, that's okay, I think I know how I did that, right? Their way of thinking could be way off, but in their mind, that's how I did it, so I have to perform in a different way where that's not what they think, right? I mean, it's kind of a weird process to think about, but like if they're so convinced that's how the trick is done, and you can say, no, that's not how I did it. No, that's not how I did the trick. That's not how I did it. It's very hard for them to be like, no, like that's how they're convinced that that's how it's done.
Right.
So you have to perform in a way where
like it proves they're wrong almost. Yeah.
It proves they're wrong, but in a way where if the audience member thinks that's how it's done, then in their perspective that's how it's done, right?
Yeah.
Even though it's way off, right? It's a little bit hard to explain, but you have to develop a routine where people wouldn't think that way, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Like, so it even seals up even though that may not be how the trick was performed. I see what you're saying now. I think I wasn't fully understanding, but now,
like their reality is their reality. Like their beliefs is their reality, right? So it's like, okay, now we have to think of a way where that's not where that's even though that's not how I did the trick, their method is not the real method.
Yeah.
I don't want them to think that's the method.
To eliminate that possibility anyways. Yeah.
Exactly,
That makes sense.
It's a little bit hard to explain. So like if I took that card, I said, okay, take out any card you want, right? And you look at it and I said, okay, I made a prediction, the 3 of diamonds, right? And then I put the deck away. Someone in the audience could be like, okay, well, they're all 3 of diamonds. The whole deck's diamonds, right? Even though they're not, but their mind it is, and because they think it is, then it is, right? So now I have to say, okay, the whole deck with 3 diamonds. Okay, well, now I have to show the whole deck's all different now, right? Because if one person thinks that, then someone else may think that as well. And then even though that's not the real method, the whole audience is thinking that's the method, then I'm not impressing them at all, even though that's not the real method, right?
Yeah. And I imagine sometimes, like you said, simplicity, like making the simple things look complex. Maybe sometimes it is as simple as that, but you've had some other diversion to where you've buttoned it up where that isn't where they were thinking about it. And it's like, oh yeah, that whole deck was 3 diamonds, but you weren't thinking about the deck. You were thinking about the parrot he had hanging over there. Like, so it's just like,
that's a great way. So actually what you just said, I actually do that in my keynote. So what I do is I have someone take out a card and I have them put it back. I haven't shown the card, I have them put it back. And I say, okay, watch the deck. 1, 2, 3. If I snap, your card travels up my sleeve, down my pants, and now your card's in my shoe. The first time, what's the name of your card? 3 diamonds. I take off my shoe with the 3 diamonds in my shoe, right? People go crazy. And I say, now let me explain how I did that, right? Say step number 1, you go to Amazon.com. Step number 2, you type in playing cards. Step number 3, you order 53 decks of cards. Okay. Step number 4, when the decks come to you, you take out all the 3 diamonds and you form a brand new deck of cards, right? And they're all 3 diamonds, right? Right. So it's a funny gag, right? But it's essentially saying I prove to them and say, look, we make a lot of assumptions in our lives, right? We make a lot of assumptions that you assume the cards were all different, right? There's another presentation you say, let's go through what just happened. I took a deck of cards out. I showed you all the cards were different. You took out a card, the card ended up in my shoe, right? Those are all facts, right? And they say, yeah, they're all facts. I say, raise your hand if you believe that was all true. Everyone raise their hand. And I say, no. Well, when did I show that they were all different? And then I show that they're all 3 diamonds, right? So we make assumptions in our minds all the time. So what I try to do in my show, I try to kind of play around with those assumptions a little bit. I try to have fun with it as well. So it's kind of like a learning opportunity as well.
Yeah, and it is a brain exercise to get people thinking like, hey, question stuff a little bit, So
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
Is so actually, as far as like, because you mentioned competing with the audience, in terms of like who can trick who or like who really understands it, do you find like the magic community is like, are people like, I guess is the competition high? Like, do people share jokes? Is there a backdoor community where you just discuss how you do your tricks, are there styles that are more accepted, or do people think like that's hack and this is good? Or I'm just curious how that community is.
Everything you just said is true.
Okay, yeah.
Everything you said. There's a really big magic community. Some magicians have higher egos, than others. I learned that growing up. I believe that like when I was growing up, when I first started to get into magic can really like mess with your head as a magician, because you're performing and people are saying, oh my God, you're so amazing, you're so good, whatever, all this stuff. You can get a pretty big ego doing that when you're constantly having people tell you you're so amazing at something, right? And I feel like growing up, that's what I unfortunately I learned that I did have a really big ego growing up, and I try to stay away from that now. That I just learned through experience. But a lot of magicians haven't learned through experience, and they still think that they are the best person in the world, and they do know everything, and they'll compete with different magicians and stuff like that. Where again, some magicians are more respectful than others, or can be better mentors than others, or some magicians be like, no, I'm not going to tell you how I did that. You have to figure out yourself. Like I figured it out. Where, so again, some people, but that's, I guess, in any industry, some people have bigger egos than others. But as long as you're respectful to other magicians, and you give credit to other magicians, if you're going to, teach a trick or something like that, if you were inspired by them, just give as much credit as possible. It's kind of something. It's like some of the tricks I've even developed over the years, but some magicians have been doing a lot longer than me. It takes them years and years and years and years to develop a routine with all the psychological components I told you about, to build all the props and stuff like that. And then when someone else just goes out there and just kind of steals it per se and just does it, that can really cause a lot of friction within the magic industry. So again, I try to collaborate with a lot of magicians and try to get some different. I try to share my ideas, I share their ideas, and stuff like that. As long as you're respectful, I think again, just anything in life, as long as you're respectful to other people and really value them, I think it's okay. But yeah, the magic community is pretty big. It can get pretty ugly at sometimes if people believe that they created a trick or something first before the other person, and you're not getting credit, and it's going viral or something like that.
I imagine in that case it would go to like whoever had the earliest video document of it, right?
Yeah.
Like, if they can.
And that's exactly right. Yeah, as long as you can document it that you did create it. However, there does come a time where if you do perform something and you document it, even though you documented it, and someone developed a very similar idea, and they sell the idea, even though you created it, it's tough to, it's that blurry line, right? Like right now, because a lot of technology is happening, a lot of magicians are trying to use tricks that relate to the culture and relate to technology and social media and stuff like that. So a lot of times magicians will develop, two magicians on completely different sides of the world who has never talked to each other may develop the same exact trick around the same exact time, right? But it's tough to, and then they start performing their shows, and then someone else saw them, like, wait a minute, I just saw this person perform the same trick, right? And most magicians would then those two magicians would talk to each other and say, what was your history? Have you seen my show before? And kind of talk it out, and then maybe put like a statement out saying, I don't know. Again, this happens actually a lot. It's saying, we realize that Bob and I have created the same very similar tricks, but it's very inspired by this type of person. So as long as you credit them and stuff like that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. But it's very tough. A lot of magicians will patent a lot of stuff too. If it's like a certain prop, something like that. Like I trademarked "impossible" is just a word. So no one in the world now can use that phrase as a title of a keynote or a magic show or like T-shirts or stuff or something like that. So if someone did if I did see someone using it, I could sue them. I wouldn't take that. I would just show them, hey, like, listen, like I have this trademark. Because the way that trademarks work is that as long as it's not causing as long as it's not in the same industry and causing confusion, then it's fine. So for instance, a restaurant could open up and have their name be "impossible" is just a word, right? I can't sue them because they're a completely different industry and people wouldn't get my services and their services confused.
Right.
Right. So that's kind of the tough part. So, but yeah, that's kind of where the legal stuff comes in terms of names and patents, stuff like that. Is it the same industry? And then two, would it cause confusion for your target audience? Yeah.
Okay. So actually you had mentioned that some magicians might mutually try to credit, like, this is an influence that we both had for this type of trick. We just recently had a podcast with a musician of Flawless Real Talk. He mentioned that he doesn't listen to a lot of mainstream music because he tries not to get that unintentional influence.
Yeah.
So do you find, like, are there any magicians out there that will say like how they'll mention, like, you got to figure this trick out on your own? Maybe like I guess purists think like you just have to come up with every trick on your own and never see anyone else do a trick. Like you just have to make them up totally on your own.
Yeah, no, I think there are people who have both beliefs. I think as long as you are not copying word for word, script for script, the other magician's thing, if you can be inspired by them, I think that's one thing. Like a lot of things I say like a lot of a lot of tricks I see online, I say, oh wow, that was a unique way of how he performed that. That's going to inspire me to develop something that relates back to what makes me special. I can't say the exact word for word, script for script, because I'd be copying. but it does inspire me to get new ideas, especially the structure of their show too. Like I just saw a video the other day where a magician would be like okay, he would say like, okay, a lot of magicians on TV, kind of going back to what we just said a few minutes ago, a lot of magicians on TV will use a lot of cuts and stuff like that. So what we're going to do, we're going to green screen this. So I'm going to hold up a card and all of a sudden just pretend it's changing and just go crazy. And we're going to piece it together, right? Yeah. So they'll do that, and they'll do another one, and then the last time will actually be a real trick, right? But so the audience reaction is like really genuine, right? So that fake trick 1, fake trick 2, real trick 3, but going in that flow, I'm like, oh, that's a really interesting concept how they develop that, where the audience thinks that it's another fake trick per se, but it's a real trick, and they're like, wait a minute, like I catch them off guard.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like that formula. So there's a lot of other things that you can be inspired by the magicians, but again, you have to be careful not to copy their act, word for word. And I do know there's some magicians out there that do that, and they do kind of get in trouble, in the long run, because some magicians are like, hey, listen, it took me 10 years to develop that act, and now you're just copying it. So.
Yeah, there's definitely some give, I think, there when it comes to like parallel thinking versus did you just straight up rip it off?
Exactly, so. Yeah, and I think that's with anything, even with music, I think we're all subconsciously inspired somewhere.
Absolutely. Everyone, even the greats, draw influence from other people.
Exactly, yeah, and it's like as long as you're not like you have to just be inspired by them, and take what you like about them, and then how do you adapt it to what
right.
And then merge them together, right? And then that's what I always say. A lot of this whole debate of is can you just be born creative, right? Or can creativity be taught? I do think there's a combination of both, but I think the more creative you can be, if you want to be really creative, surround yourself with creative people.
Absolutely, yep.
That's the thing. Like I think some people are as naturally creative, but surround yourself with people that are going to push you to that next level. It's like,
right.
With Tom Brady, right? Think about it. He's very competitive. He was always very competitive growing up, and pick 199, all this type of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I think what made him so successful was because he was put in the Patriots mindset, where
mm-hmm.
Bill Belichick is a very structured, hard-ass type of guy. He doesn't give
right.
Experience do. So
right.
therefore, it actually motivated Brady to try to prove to himself even more. Like, wow, I just threw for 500 yards, and my coach didn't even tell me good job. You know what?
Right.
You do 600 yards then, right?
Yeah.
So it's
and Brady was already super self-motivated, so that just added to it. And if he had been in a different situation where he wasn't pushed like he was in New England, all that talent and drive could have gone to waste.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like you want to figure out. I don't like to say strengths and weaknesses, but I feel like that's a very because I think you can become better at anything you do. I like to say passions and not really no passion. That's the word to say it. But what are you really passionate about doing? And surround yourself with people that you're not really passionate about doing, or I guess in this case it'll be weaknesses, so you can learn from them, right? So then you can better build yourself as an all-around person, right? Like, even with the Beatles, I always go back to the Beatles, like I freaking love them, but John Lennon was a very scattered brain type of person. He had a very hard time focusing, but he was very good with like sad lyrics and really expressing his emotion. Where Paul McCartney was very organized in the way he did things, and he knew how to take a concept and make it marketable to the public, right? So combine them together, they're the greatest band of all time, right? Like, because they both balanced each other out. Paul could take John's music and have it more organized and structured, and John could take Paul's music and say, well, what if you add this weird spontaneity to it, this weird thing to it, and Paul, so it balances himself out, right? So I try to surround myself with people that I try to figure out what am I good at, what am I not good at, and try to surround myself with people that a little combination of both to make myself, a better round person. Yeah. Yeah.
That
Awesome.
makes sense. And that, yeah, like they say, you're the combination of the 5 people closest to you. So that makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's true.
I always go back to, I think there's 3 types of magicians and 3 types of entrepreneurs in the world, of leaders. We have the creators, the performers, and the creative performers, right? So the creators over here are more about, they love to create material, and maybe they're more behind the scenes. They love building the props. They're kind of mad scientists, right? And then the performers over here, they love communicating with people. Maybe they're in front of the stage, or they're connecting with the people, they're the showmen. And then right in the middle of a little combination of both, right? And that could be anything in life. Maybe you love this being kind of more behind the scenes type of stuff, right? Or maybe like kind of like social media or stuff like, actually, so I guess social media, or maybe the app developer would be a good example. And then the performer over here, maybe you're like the salesman, right? Maybe the social media, like you're connecting with more people, right? The car salesman, right? Or maybe you're the presenter of the group if you're with a team, right? And then maybe a little combination of both. And I don't think one is better or worse than the other. In order to have a very successful team, you have to have at least one on your team, right?
Yep.
And yeah, that's what it is. You have to try to figure out what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, what's my team strengths, my team weaknesses, how can we merge them together? Yeah. I would probably say I'm probably more the performer person in terms of when it comes to magic. I like connecting with the audience more, although I do love creating tricks, but I do know there's a lot better creators out there than myself that are kind of like I have a consultant, his name is Staffy, and he is just a mad scientist. He develops all these amazing things behind the scenes, but I perform out in the public more than he does, right? So we're kind of there, and then I know a lot of magicians a little bit of both. Yeah.
That makes
So
sense.
but it depends. I know that you guys are probably one or the other, maybe a little combination of both, right? And just the more you interact with people, the more you're going to realize what you're more passionate about, and what your strengths and weaknesses are.
Right. And then how you can benefit each other.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Takes a team. Yep. It always
Absolutely.
takes a team.
We a team.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing with magicians too. When you say the word magician, you automatically think of this person who like won't reveal anything and like very secretive and stuff like that. And I used to be that same way. I used to tell no one my secrets. But the more I started to kind of surround myself with trusted advisors and stuff, the more I was more willing to share some ideas. And then they helped me tremendously to make them better, right? So like magicians are very secretive in terms of they don't really like to share a lot of their ideas, which I totally get. But if you can surround yourself with a good group of people that you trust and they trust you, it's so powerful building yourself around a community. I growing up, I was very individualistic, and now I've totally opened my horizon of how I can help you and vice versa in terms of how we can learn from each other.
At what point did that mindset change for you? Was there a specific moment, or was it just kind of over time you just kind of learned that you were being too, I guess, egotistical? I don't know.
Yeah, I think growing up, I think in high school and college, I would say I knew a lot of people, and a lot of people knew me. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I could only count like 5 good friends. If that makes sense.
Yep, absolutely.
Like Owen and I grew up in a very small town, so everyone knew each other. And I was looking around, I felt like, oh wow, like more people are hanging out more and like getting invited to places. Like, wait, why am I only could count like friends on my hand that were actually hanging out with me and stuff. I'm like, wait, what am I doing wrong here? And I realized, I'm like, wait a minute, I'm too focused on myself. And again, it goes back to growing up being a magician. You're constantly told, oh wow, you're amazing at what you do, right? And again, it goes to your head, and it's like, oh wow, like I know something that people don't know, And I think that's what I kind of learned, like, wow, like that magic component of me actually really backfired, right? So now I try to make friends with people first, get to know them, whatever, and then magic is just something I do, right? So I want them to know me for me, like me for me, and then eventually they realize that I'm a professional magician, right? And that, again, it happened in college as well. It's the same thing in college. You know, when you're getting invited to all these parties and stuff, you know, and you're from all these tricks, you know, a lot of people know who you are, but you can only, you know, me personally, I can only count on my hand a few of my real people I could actually count as friends. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think there is something to be said. Oh, looks like we lost Jack. I will pause.
Yeah.
Jack is back. We figured
I'm
it
back.
out. But yeah, just to say about having like 5 close friends. I think there really is something to be said about like not spreading yourself too thin, because they say you can only really genuinely give so much of yourself to anyone. So like you could probably like, it could be to the detriment of your career that you're trying to be friends with 20 people closely at all the time. Like that's going to take up literally your whole life, probably trying to spend time with everybody. So while I can understand where you're coming from with like the fleeting relationships of like people seeing you do tricks in college, I have to say more people probably knew who you were than know who I am. So it is you're getting your name out there. You know what I mean?
It's a pros and
So
cons. You know, I think it's tough because especially like myself, where I am the business, right? Like people have to, like, people hire me, right, to perform, manage, to do whatever I need to do. So it's tough to, when you want to advertise, especially on Facebook or whatever, you want to say like, oh wow, look, I like performed like to Tom Brady, or I've done all these like cool things, because like you have to, in one way you want to showcase your life in a way, right?
Yeah.
Another way you want to try to advertise yourself. Another way people can view that as you're just bragging, right?
yeah, quick humble brag, like, oh yeah, this was like that one time I worked for the Patriots. And,
Yeah, right. So it's a really difficult road to do, and I learned that through high school and through college, where like I was really lucky to have all these amazing opportunities when I was younger, where other people could view that as, okay, well, he's just bragging, right? And then that could actually backfire, and people like don't want to like hang out with you because you're just like humble bragging all the time, but like that wasn't really my intention. But I realized looking back on it, I'm like, oh shit, wait, why the hell did I say that? You know what I mean? So what I've realized over the years is like people people want to become friends with you because for who you are. And if you took out all your accomplishments in your life, would you still have the same friends that you have? Right? And I think I didn't realize that growing up. I thought me showing, hey, look what I've done over all these years, would actually attract more friends, but actually was pushing people away. Right?
right. And there's nothing wrong though with defining your worth. Like you did and have been accomplishing so much. So I mean, it is hard to, you can't just ignore it all the time. So I'm sure some people, it's like insecurity on their
If
part.
I even shook Tom Brady's hand, I would brag about it. So
Yeah. Like I was even, one of my questions I had written down, we already had kind of gotten to it, was just how does it feel to have Tom Brady talk about you?
Yeah.
Like it's just crazy.
That's not something
like,
everyone gets to do. So
yeah,
I think you have bragging rights there.
That was a wild day, actually. So part of my job of why they hired me was to take pictures of the players. So what happened was I had the whole show with the players, and then Ryan Hannibal from WEEI reached out to me and said, hey, can we do a story on what you're doing? I said, yeah, sure. So I did an interview with them. So when he posted the article kind of like went viral. Like it like blew up, like saying like, oh my God, like the team has a magician, what's going on, all this type of stuff. Like, it blew up. So then about a week later, a reporter in the press conference room asked Brady, he's like, hey, what do you think of the team magician John Logan? Brady said some cool things.
I saw that interview.
Yeah, It was crazy. I was in the back of the room taking photos of Brady for my other part of my job.
Wow.
All of a sudden I heard John Logan, and I was like, wait, what? Like I was like, wait, what's going on right now?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, holy shit! Like, wait, Brady just mentioned me. What is going on?
That's amazing.
Man, my phone blew up that night. Like,
yeah, I bet.
To me, like people I haven't talked to in like 10 years, like being like, what the hell just happened? Like I don't like it. So it was and after that, all these TV features want to do like TV shows want to do features on me and stuff like that. So, it was really cool, at the time, and then, but again, it kind of goes back, like if I, it's like you can only, you kind of realize like who like your true friends are compared to people that are just like reaching out because of like your accomplishments, right? Or
Right.
stuff like that. And then it's hard to kind of be like to brag about yourself, but you're not really bragging about yourself. It's more for advertisement.
Right. You're just showing people what you can do.
Yeah. Whereas, with some people but some people could take that as a way like, oh my God, he's bragging about himself again. But like, I'm trying not to. But it's
Those people are insecure.
Yeah, you just have to be like,
That's what I say.
It's the brand, and especially in high school and college where you're trying to fit in, you're at that awkward age where you're trying to fit in, you're trying to make friends, stuff like that. Magic is a great way to make yourself unique, but it can also backfire because other people want to try to fit in as well, and they could actually view your magic as a way of like all right, enough already with the magic, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that makes them feel good that they shut someone down or something. I know how you feel. There's definitely if you, and this isn't magic specific, like if you are unique in any way in high school, it's sometimes difficult to navigate, like because people just love to point things out in high school. So
exactly, that's the thing. Like again,
Kids are assholes.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Our brains are naturally drawn to complain compared to praise, or not praise. Maybe is the wrong word. To look at things from a positive perspective, right? Like it's easy to complain about traffic, and complain about the weather and stuff like that, and people actually bond easier that way, right? People actually, if you meet a stranger, you'll actually bond easier if you have a similar complaint in common.
Oh, that's 100% true, actually. Yeah.
I actually
like
Jack,
people
did I
that
just send you this. It was it was a video I literally saw yesterday. It was from Funny or Die, where like it was office gossip, and they were like,
right. I was just thinking the conversations I have at work, like 90% of them are us just complaining about shit. Like it's
yeah,
and it's not like we're miserable people, but it's just we have that common ground. We're like, oh, this annoys you. It annoys me too. Let's talk about it.
and you're just like, yes.
Yeah.
One of my challenges in my keynote is I always say, everything in life is based on perspective. Can you go 24 hours without complaining about anything? And it's very hard to do that because it just changes your perspective on life. However, kind of going back to, the high school and the college years, whatever, if I'm performing magic, people could view that as a way like, okay, all right, they're like, okay, I can't figure the trick out. I feel John is, is trying to be superior than me, than people. Then it just adds that common element to it, right? Like, so it was tough growing up because, again, we did live in a small town, so everyone knew each other. But truthfully, I could probably only count like 3 or 4 people that I really truly said were my true friends. Probably partly because I probably pushed a lot of people away, not realizing that I was pushing people away, and I only realized that looking back on it now. So again, it's just learning lessons, that's what it comes down to as well.
Yeah, well, that's life. I mean, no one can say that they're the same now that they were in high school. So, and you're in I guess in another unique situation is that your career that you're in did start in high school. A lot of people sort of develop that craft a little later. So yours was like, you've had I guess it's unique situation. I keep saying unique of like just that, like starting from 12 on now, like 12 to into your 20s, like this was something that you've now experienced like through puberty, basically, like how your brain has changed thoughts of it. And it is a testament to a lot of people would have put it down, like, but to have that passion and really pick through it. I think you're probably one of the, I think, only people that has at this age the insight like to magic that you do.
Well, I think that's a benefit of performing for so long, is that you view things as learning lessons, right? Like I just, you go back and you think about other aspects of your life, and you're like, wait a minute, like, why did I say that there? Why did I do that there? And like, you just view it as learning lessons. You know what I mean? Like not necessarily regrets, but just like, okay, if I'm in a similar situation again, I'm not going to do that, right? And I think that's, I was lucky at a young age to get into magic and learn about not just performing tricks, but how to connect with people using the magic and maybe the hard components about magic. And it can be a very lonely road being a performer, traveling by yourself, state to state. I know a lot of, and I know it's kind of why celebrities get into drugs, right? Because it's a very, very similar idea because when you're on stage for that, let's say 60 minutes, everyone's applauding you, everyone's laughing, they're saying you're amazing. It's that instant gratification, right? It's like, wow, I'm so successful, quote unquote, right? All this stuff. And then once the show's over, that roller coaster dies down, right? And a lot of entertainers, especially rock and roll people, pop culture people, they need to get that high again, right? So they take those drugs to feel that high again. So they're always leveled, right? But I think if you're always leveled, I'm not trying to get into drugs right now.
Right, no, that's fine.
I'm just saying, if you're always leveled, if you're always feeling the same way, then you're not feeling anything at all.
There's no reward, right? Yeah,
Right.
that's a normal.
Right? Because you can't appreciate the highs if you don't have the lows.
And you're not building a tolerance for the lows either. So that when the lows do hit, you don't know how to deal with it.
And it's more rewarding compared to, drinking or taking drugs or whatever, because if you work on something so hard for your whole life, let's say magic in this instance, and I do my 60-minute show, I know that people are reacting to me because of my hard work, right? Compared to just taking a drug or doing a shot or whatever, you still may get that high, but it's not as rewarding because you know that you kind of cheated.
You didn't earn it.
You didn't earn it, right? But that's why a lot of and I completely understand why people would get on drugs because especially entertainers, because they need that constant gratification, that constant feeling of feeling valued. And that's why a lot of magicians got into magic to begin with, because they didn't feel like that they either got picked on in school or they didn't feel like they were valued somehow. And magic is a great way to build up your confidence and have people look at you from a different perspective, like, oh wow, oh my god, how do you do that? It's a confidence booster, no matter what trick you do, right? But a lot of times, if magicians don't recognize that they're using magic as that crutch to make them feel good, and if they remove magic out of the equation, can they still make themselves feel valuable in life? And that's the difference. And some magicians, even professional ones, I know them personally, still have trouble not using magic as that crutch, right? Right? I think we lost him again.
Uh-oh. Back again. So it's, I guess just to bring it back, it sounds like you were kind of alluding to, like, there's a dark side of the road. Like, how much of that have you experienced with just the people around you? Have you kind of watched that happen to others? Or are you yourself, like, kind of you catch yourself and you try to avoid, like, getting a drink at the end of the night or something?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a slippery. I think magic, or even the entertainment industry in general, it can be a very lonely road. So I can completely understand and see how these celebrities or these rock stars or whoever can get addicted to drugs or alcohol or something like that, because you're traveling. For instance, like in my case, right? Like if I'm traveling to a keynote or a show, I want to get there a day earlier in case anything to do with fights. All right, I like to get there at least 2 days earlier, so and then leave maybe the next day. So that's 4 days of traveling right there, with only a 60-minute of me up on stage, right? So that whole time I'm just by myself, right? So then when you get up on the stage, we get that high of interacting with the people and all this type of stuff, and then you kind of go back to the hotel room, and then you're by yourself again, right? So it's a big roller coaster ride of doing that, and so I can completely understand how these successful magicians, successful performers, musicians, celebrities can get addicted to this, because you're constantly, let's say like a band, you travel, you do your set for 2 hours, right? Everyone's screaming your name, is all great, and then the lights shut down and you're by yourself again, right? And so it's this big roller coaster ride, and it can be definitely lonely sometimes. I know a lot of magicians who have been on all these famous talk shows and have their own shows on TV and are all like really successful on paper, but I can tell just through their social media posts or stuff like that they are lonely. Just the way that the things that they post, you could be like, oh, well, that's kind of odd that he posted that, or he's asking advice about this, And again, it's like there's nothing wrong with asking for advice on social media, but a lot of things that they post, they can easily just like Google, right? Like,
yeah, you can see through, like, it's almost a cry for help, depending on how it's worded. Yeah.
You can definitely tell that, and just it's especially I can get lonely on the road as well. When I a few years ago, I realized, like, you know what, it'd be amazing. I want to be a full-time magician, full-time keynote speaker. I want to travel to all these conferences and do all these cool things. I want to be on the road all the time. But then I just realized over time, like, wow, it can actually be really lonely. You know what I mean? And
yeah, I'm sure it's draining because
and exhausting too.
Yeah, there's no normalcy to, like, you're not going to the same home every day. You're like, you have to repack everything and travel, like, make sure you didn't leave anything in the hotel. Like, that is definitely an on the go. You can get used to it, but I think it would be hard to get used to, and it probably doesn't make you ever feel like you're at home. So
yeah, and then then combined with our kind of current social media environment now, I feel like social media is actually really backfiring. I think we're at a point right now where social media is backfiring in a way where social media is essentially people's highlight reel of their life, right? But a lot of people don't know that there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that people don't know about, that other people don't know about, right? So if someone posts something online about some big accomplishment and then someone else sees that online, they're going to feel like kind of feel down, which makes them want to post something good about their life, and then that other person. So it's just a big domino effect.
Not realizing that nobody's posting about the bad stuff in their life.
Exactly.
It's like anyone can make their life seem pretty great on social media. All you got to do is post, just every couple weeks, or every so often, anytime something good happens, or you go on like a cool trip, but you don't see the bad stuff ever.
And it's so bad because it's just everyone's living this filtered life, and everyone's comparing each other themselves to other people, which then makes you feel like that you're not good enough.
Yep.
Right. And then you post something to get engagements, for those likes, to make you feel good, so people recognize you. But in reality, long term, it's actually backfiring you, making you lonelier, because now you're only posting things for the likes, right? Right. So it's just this big.
And then in a less lonely time in your life, you'll probably look back at those posts and be like, why was I posting that stuff?
Yeah. I think social media is really, I think it can definitely have power, but I think it's really impacting the mental health of a lot of people.
For sure.
And then combining it, if you are a entertainer or someone who is in the entertainment field, most likely you love that, you have that mindset of, you love when people praise you, right? If you're a musician or a magician or whatever you want to do, that comedian, you like that praise of people. Oh my God, you're so funny, you're so good at magic, whatever it is. So combining that mindset with the already social media mindset, magicians and entertainers, whatever, can get very lonely very fast. It can really mess with your mental health, and it's really it's a really lonely road. I forget who said this. I think it was I forget who it was. I think they were on the Fallon show, and it was an actor, and they were like, "Oh, do you have any advice for people who want to be a successful actor like you?" And they were like, "Don't do it." Right?
Yeah, who did say that? I feel like I've seen this before.
Yeah, I forget who it was. But it was just really, and the more you look this up, the more what I'm talking about, you're like, wow, there's actually a lot of people are saying very similar things to what I'm saying, that it can be a very, very lonely road, and sometimes it's really not worth that 60-minute of praise isn't worth that long-term effective mental health.
Right.
Right. And you have to be careful. So then I have to go back like, okay, why are you doing what you do? So like, why am I performing magic? Right. Like, is it because I want people to praise me, or is it simply because I actually do enjoy performing magic? You know, and I think any magician is probably a little combination of both. But you have to figure out what is worth more, you know? And it's, you know, it's really tough. It's really tough to do that. Especially if you're traveling a lot. And so I can totally, you know, when people are saying, oh, you know, this celebrity's on drugs or whatever, like I don't judge them at all, because I can totally see why they would.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting how you pointed out, like, it's not just in one of these industries. It's sort of like the road gig economy. It has
entertainers in general.
Yeah. Like, I mean, just a lot of the things you were saying when it comes to like getting into like people with like self-esteem might get into magic, like because the magic helps build their self-esteem. And I've heard that with comedy, and I mean, that happens with musicians. Like you get good at guitar or something, and
Right.
that's your niche.
Oh, being really good at something helps your self-esteem, of course. So
yeah.
Especially with like magicians. Like I know a lot of magicians, a lot of people that are successful magicians now, or magicians in general, they use magic as a way to fit in, right? Like they use that magic as that icebreaker, like to fit in, or using that crutch of like trying to, you know, feel good about themselves because other people are feeling, or telling them that they're really good at magic or whatever, right? So it's like if you remove that crutch, you know, do you still have that self-esteem? Or is that magic actually helping you or hindering you? So a lot of successful magicians now had self-esteem issues when they were younger, which is why they got into magic, for people to tell them that they're really good at something, right? So they're already rooted in their mind that they already have self-esteem issues, right? So now when you're going on the road, when you're older and traveling more and more and more, your self-esteem issues are coming back because you already had them to begin with, right?
Right.
And I think that's with any type of entertainer. A lot of entertainers get into their industry because they use that outlet as a way to fit in or to feel better about themselves, or because they were getting more attention now, you know. That's why like a lot of these movies now, like the Bohemian Rhapsody movie and the Elton John movie, like Freddie Mercury and Elton John, they were kind of an outcast when they were younger, and they used music as that outlet, right?
Right. Yep.
Yeah, but then they both got into drugs, right? Because they have to stay at that high. They have to feel like they're constantly fitting in. So it's just a really interesting psychological component of why entertainers do what they do. Or do they do it because they're truly passionate about it, or do they do it because people are saying that they're really amazing at it? And I would assume it's a little combination of both.
It's probably a little bit of both. Yeah.
Yeah.
They have to figure out, okay, which one. So as long as you can understand that, you know, it's easier to cope for a future if you do feel lonely, you know.
Yeah.
And do you think
self-awareness?
Yeah.
Exactly. And do you think that that's like person to person, as far as like Jack was just saying, self-awareness? Like, do you need to just keep yourself in check, or do you think there's really sort of like a guideline of like, could you give people like an outline of advice? Like if you're road gigging, you need to like always have breakfast, like keep yourself on this type of schedule, or you'll fall out of it and start spiraling. Like, I wonder if there's like, you know, something like, as far as keeping routine, the things you can control, like the intangibles, obviously not everything's going to be the same every day on the road. I was just curious if there's any tips or tricks you've found, like advice to people that might be listening right now who have struggled, like trying to fit with maybe their mentality on the road.
That's a good question. I think I think people will feel lonely, but if they don't recognize that's normal to feel lonely, then they have to realize that it's normal to feel the way that they're feeling, right? And if they just think like, oh wow, like, well, I'm lonely, whatever. I just did my show. Okay, what do I do now? Like, and then if they can recognize, okay, this is actually normal to feel this way, I think it's gonna be better because they can better cope with it. When I travel, you know, I try to, you know, watch some. I kind of use that to my advantage of, okay, I have no really distraction. I can go do the night beforehand. I practice my show in my hotel room, and then I do my show, whatever. And then it's like, okay, now I'm in North Carolina. let me look up some cool places to visit in North Carolina. When am I going to be here next, right? I take advantage of where I am, right? Like
That's important. Yes.
Absolutely.
And you'll have a huge bucket list checked off before you're 30.
Absolutely.
Like, that is amazing.
So that's, I think, what the best thing to do is really take advantage of, like, some people dream about traveling to a different state, you know,
Right.
and now you're going there pretty much paid for by someone else, the person who
Right.
hired you.
You can't just stay in your hotel room.
Yeah, take advantage of that. Go on an adventure, you know. And again, it's going to be a little bit lonelier if you're by yourself compared to someone else. Like, but I try to, you know, and you might know Brett Powers.
Oh, yeah, there's a few of them, right? There's a couple brothers, I think.
Well, so Brett has a sister, Gina, and then a brother named Jackson. But so Brett and I have been, you know, best friends since like second grade. So whenever I have an opportunity like to travel to another state, I'll bring him with me because he's been there. You know, we've been best friends since second grade, so he knows all my tricks and he knows everything with all this stuff. So like, I don't have to try to like impress him with anything, right? But he'll give me advice, right? He'll be like, oh, you know, when you're up on stage, you should say this instead of this, right? So I'm there with someone. So whenever you can, travel with like a travel buddy if you can, and you know, and definitely do that. So that's one advice. Another advice is just take advantage of different different landmarks that you're around. That's another advice I would say, and just realize that, you know, a lot of people, you know, you can get a lot done if you have no distractions, right? A lot of people are kind of locked up in their office all the time. People constantly talking to them. It's like, okay, now you're by yourself. You know, can you do anything that you really wanted to always do? You know, that you didn't need. You don't need any distractions or anything like that. So, you know, that's the thing. You know, so it can be a very tough road, but I completely understand why people would need that constant praise, that constant feeling of feeling valued, right? Because a lot of people got into that entertainment industry because they didn't feel valued, right? So at the end of the night, when the lights go down and the crowd is gone, you're gonna feel lonely because you went all the way to your high. You did you did what you're known for, and now you're going back down, right? So you just have to recognize that and really take advantage of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and people kind of have to tailor their routine to that and just keep in mind. I mean, yeah, keep yourself in check. And I'm sure, like, not to get too deep, but there's like a lot of, you can do like remote therapy and stuff if you just need to talk to someone. They have like FaceTiming, like therapists and everything, or even just a friend. Like, just if you do need to talk to someone on the road, there's technology has made that a lot easier than it had been in the past.
Well, yeah, I know, like, therapy right now is getting really popular just because of like so many things going on in the world right now. Like, and like I know a lot of people who go to therapy, and just that's what it's like the norm now. You know, like 20 years ago, I go to therapy. Like, oh my God, he goes to therapy. And now it's like, oh yeah, like everyone has a therapist. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
You hear every celebrity talking about like, I was telling my therapist this, and they told me this, and it's like just part of life. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like because you can connect a lot of dots as well. Like, okay, why are you feeling this way? Okay, well, maybe it's an experience in your past, and you can connect a lot of things and really understand why the reasons you act the way you act, and if you understand those reasons, then you can better just be better in life. You really understand why you're doing what you're doing, you know. But yeah, I know like a lot of, you know, like you said, a lot of celebrities have therapists because it's just easier for them to cope with everything going on. You know, I would say a lot of people want to become rich and famous and travel and all this type of stuff, but there is a dark side to that. You know, nothing is perfect in life. So I think growing up, I thought that success was everyone knowing who I was, but the more I realized, the more I was like, that shouldn't really be a threshold for success. Like being popular or famous or whatever, like that shouldn't, you know, now I learned, but back then I didn't know, you know. I think
what is success to you now?
So success to me is simply making a positive impact, living the life you want to live while making a positive impact for yourself and for those around you. Yeah. So there's two components. So living the life you want to live while also making a positive impact for yourself and for those around you. To me, that's what success is, you know. And I think if you can do that, that's what it is. People say money can't buy happiness, but of course, it will only buy happiness to a certain point. All these billionaires and all these people that have a ton of money, studies have shown that as long as you have enough money to pay the bills, make ends meet, and have a little extra, that's the threshold. Anything else above that,
it's unnecessary.
And, but so if you're poor and you have nothing, clearly you're going to be unhappy because. Right. But as long as you have enough money to pay the bills, pay the bills and have enough money for the leftover. That's the threat. Anything else, it actually shows that doesn't impact your happiness at all.
Yeah.
Right. Because who knows like what you could spend that money on? Like once you get past that.
the bills are covered. Then what else is there? Like
exactly. And that's the thing. I always tell people there's 24 hours in a day, right? 8 hours we're sleeping. Let's say on average, 8 hours we're sleeping.
Hopefully.
Yep. Right.
We try.
The other 8 hours you're at work. And the other 8 hours, you're either commuting or eating, right? So those 8 hours that you're at work, right? You can try to do something that you enjoy doing, right? Like, because those other 8 hours where you're commuting or eating or whatever, like those are just like essential things that you have to do, right? So that we're pretty much only living 33% of our life, if you think about it.
Right. Yeah.
Right? We're living 33% of our life. So why don't you do something those 8 hours that you're at work? If you're making $1 million a day, but you hate what you're doing, are you successful or not?
Yeah, because what can you do with $1 million? Yeah, if you're busy hating
it. If you're not happy, then what's the point? As long as you have a job that you enjoy, you're giving value to people, you're making a positive impact for yourself and those around you, and you're getting paid the amount that you can still live by plus a little bit more, that's what you should be focusing on, right?
Yep.
If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. Confucius.
Exactly. That's exactly what it should be. You know what I mean? So, and I think a lot of people view this as, view life as a way. It's like, okay, I need to go to college. I need to work at a desk job and, make all this money a year or whatever. That's how I'm going to become happy. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of people I know, some people that don't make a lot of money are happier than people I know that do make a lot of money. Right? It's very, really fascinating, that concept. And I think magicians, instead of entertainers, comedians, they think that success is people telling them that they're amazing at what they do, right? And they're trying to get all these social media followers and all this type of stuff. And they think that's what success is, but they don't realize that they're just following you, right? That they don't realize that that's not really what success should be about, right? Maybe if they're producing content, they love producing the content, social media content, then it's a different story. But you know what I mean? I think these celebrities or these people that want to be celebrities are confusing popularity with success.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, especially nowadays, you can have a big following on social media and not be making any money off of it. So it's like,
and
there's
go back to the social media thing where you just said, like, I think I said this in the beginning. I hate the word influencer, like motivational person.
Yeah, I mean, influencer has kind of become like a joke of a term, honestly.
It drives me insane when people say like, oh, like motivational speaker or influencer. It's like, no, it was like, I don't know. I find that really aggravating. But
what do you think? What do you think about? Do you know Gary Vee?
Yeah, I know Gary Vee.
What do you think about him?
I do like him. The reason I like him is because he's giving. I think some of his advice is. I think he's good. He's a good-hearted person. He wants to genuinely help people.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think he's really good at marketing himself. I think some advice that he says can apply to everyone that is
true.
True. So but again, it's a balance. You can't. If I did a keynote and, of course you're not going to relate to everything I'm talking about.
True.
But if I can say one sentence, then you'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like I consider that success, right? You learn one thing, right? And again, so it really depends on what it is. But I think a lot of these YouTubers or social media followers. At the end of the day, they could have 1 million views on YouTube, but people don't know a lot of behind the scenes that are going on. Like all the stress of like, I'm a video producer myself. I know it takes a lot of effort to produce one video, and they have to constantly produce one a day. That's a lot of stress, right? And again, they're only showing the good side on camera, but they don't. But so then all these people are striving to be these YouTubers that have 1 million views. They can post a video a day, but they're struggling because they realize how hard it actually is behind the scenes, right? A lot of people only see the end result of something, like a trick, for instance. They only see the end result. They don't see the years and years and years that went into that, right? Or even a comedian's joke, right? Like a lot of these famous comedians now probably were, in college or right out of college doing these open mic nights to 2 people in the audience, right? And like no one was cracking a smile, right?
Right.
So it is a dark side to kind of the entertainment industry in general, whether that be a magician, a comedian, a YouTuber, a musician, anything in general. Yeah. I know I kind of just rambled on there, but
Oh, no worries. No
Oh,
worries.
no worries.
There's a lot to be said on these topics. So
Absolutely.
yeah, it's hard to know how much is enough. I was actually curious. Do you have? It's a little difficult over Zoom, and I know we talked about how video can welcome skeptics. But would you be interested? Like, could you do like a trick demo for us here?
Yeah. Let's do something here. Let's see if I can. Let's see. There's actually a new trick. It's a new concept. We'll see how well it works. I don't know if it's actually even going to work or not. We'll see.
This is all part of the deception. I'm sure of it.
Yeah. So if I do, can you guys see that?
Yep.
All right.
Okay, then I do that, right? Okay. So we have all these cards here. Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha. All right. These ones are different. They're not all the 3 of diamonds.
I'm gonna give them a quick shuffle. What I'm going to do is I'm going to deal out one by one like this. And someone just say stop whenever they want.
Stop.
Right there. You sure? Do you want to deal this card up? Do you want to keep there? Do you want to add a few more?
You can deal that last one. Yeah, I trust you.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
You sure? Do you want to change? Do you want to add a few more? It's up to you.
Wait. Am I guessing something, or is this just like when I want to stop?
Yeah, when you want to stop.
Let's do 6 more cards. I want 6.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
All right, I trust it here.
Okay.
All right.
Now, if you did 7, it would have been that card. 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 We have all these different cards here, right?
Okay.
All these cards here, right?
Yep.
We'll put the card to stop there, just on the box right there. And if you didn't say 6, it would have been 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. It would have been that card, right? Would have been any of these cards here, right?
Okay.
You stop this one here. You stopped at a black 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
In the card box here, I put a prediction to the black 4.
Nah.
How do we do this? Wow. Totally random. I was totally confused.
That was mind blowing.
cards-
Mind blowing.
I'm actually like, I know something happened, but I don't know what. This one's going out, clipped out onto the YouTube channel, and people are going to be like,
"Oh, this is definitely going out. This is definitely
We'll do this. So I'll take the 4 of spades. I'll put it in the middle like that, right? You'll see it's on the bottom with the 2 of diamonds, right? Yeah, 7 of hearts, right? If I take the 7 of hearts, and just rub it right against the box, see, and now it goes back into the 4 of spades. You see it go?
What?
That's incredible.
How did that happen?
That's incredible.
We'll do it again. We'll do it a little bit differently this time. Now, do you want to use the 4 of spades, or do you want to use a different card? It's up to you.
You know what? Let's use a different card. I need it to be.
So we'll take the 4 of spades. We'll put it in the middle over here. So we'll just bury it in here, okay?
Watch closely, folks. Watch closely.
So I'll show you it's not on top, right? But here's where something interesting happens. Now, I was going to use a different card, but I just want to try this one out. If I do this, 1, 2, 3, I don't know if you saw that, but now it goes over here. Do you see it go?
No, I did not.
We'll use a different card. We'll use the 9 of diamonds, right? If I take the 9 of diamonds, I'll put it in the middle, right? Don't blink. If you blink, you're going to miss it. I take it, 1, 2, 3, just pops right to the top, right? I'll do it again. It goes into the middle like this, right? I shake it, it just goes right up.
Nah.
Right?
How is this happening? You're moving real quick. You know what? Sound off in the comments if you think you saw a cut in that video.
Yeah, we're gonna have to slow it down, slow motion.
See the 9 diamonds, put it in just like that, right? If I go like that, you'll see it goes. Well, you're the 9 of diamonds, right? Hold on here. Okay, keep riding the Jack of Hearts. If I take the Jack of Hearts, 1, 2, 3, probably just see the merge it right into the 9 of diamonds, right? And I'll do it one last time. I'll take the 9 of diamonds.
See, my cards don't change when I shake them.
There's going to be a lot of memes made of my face reacting to this right now because I'm just like, what's happening? Yeah.
We'll do to the 9 of diamonds, right? And this time we'll put it in here, right? And actually this time I'll film that, right? If I snap, it goes right up.
Oh.
That's magic. That's magic.
Oh, fancy.
Wow.
Wait, so what? Do you know Doctor Strange?
Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
I've heard Doctor Strange.
You just, dude, that was like, I mean, like, here's the thing. When I'm sitting here watching it, like, and you're holding one card and you shake it and it becomes another card. I'm like, you have to have some app on your phone and this is an LCD screen and it's like changing the card. I'm like, how does that work? That is
people
crazy.
were doing magic tricks way before apps.
Oh, yeah.
It's like technology now. It's like as magicians, you want to integrate technology into your act because you want to not as a method, but as like borrowing people's phones and stuff. But at the same time, it's a tough balance because people could just assume it's like some sort of app, right? So it's a tough balance of, as a magician, trying to create magic that has to do with
technology
or technology because people instantly think that's not real.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's fun. You know, it's the creative process is really fun to develop. Yeah.
And I'm surprised I haven't asked this yet. More on like the nonsense side of things. How do you keep up like the act ever that it's more than an illusion, like that magic is, you know, like is there ever the essence of like this is magic, there's no illusion, you know, like
so it's funny you say that. So I have a unique philosophy about what magic is. I think a lot of people in the world right now, they believe there's 2 types of magic, right? You have real magic, and then you have magic that magicians do, right? But does the real magic actually exist? And if it doesn't exist, then magicians are trying to mimic something that doesn't even exist, which is somewhat odd, right?
Right.
So, in other words, I think magic to me is a feeling of wonder and curiosity. You seeing something that you thought was impossible become impossible. Like your minds were going through when you were seeing that was the magic. Like I didn't perform magic, your mind performed the magic, right? So like real magic would be like if I really took a coin in my hand and really made it disappear, right? Like that'd be like real magic, right? But magicians are trying to do that with sleight of hand. But the irony is that people are like, wait a minute, I know that real magic probably doesn't exist. So why am I so fascinated with something that he's demonstrating that I know is fake in a way, right? So it's really interesting, the philosophy about magic. I never claim I have powers or anything like that. I try to make it all about the audience members, and I do what I call coincidental magic, which means it's essentially if you were like, all right, think of any card you want, and I say, okay, what's the name of your card that you're thinking of? Okay, 9 of diamonds, right? Then if that was a card you're thinking of, right, there's the chance of that happening is very small, but it did happen, right? So I use what I call coincidental magic, which means that a lot of the magic I do is I don't claim I'm predicting the future or anything like that. Like the one where I dealt out and you stopped whenever you wanted to, and then I predicted what car you stopped at, right? Like, yeah, there's a method behind that, and that could have been real, right? Like the chances of me stopping at the car is 1 in 52 chances, right?
Right.
All my tricks I'll do, like that's a 1 in 52 chance I'll do, but a lot of tricks I'll do, like, okay, the odds of this happening are 1 in 1,000, but they actually end up happening, right?
Yeah.
So I try to make it not about like, oh, I can predict the future, or I can read your mind, or I can gonna guess the card, and make it in a way where it's like, wait a minute, like what you just saw, I dealt all the cards, and the card that you stopped at was a card that I predicted, right? Like, okay, that could have happened. The chance of that happening is very small, but how did he do that? Like,
Right.
it actually happened, right?
Right.
So that's kind of my philosophy about it, right? So it makes people guessing, like, wait, was that a trick, or did that actually happen?
Right. That's the thing that's most impressive about magic to me, is like whether or not it's real or whether or not the person has like superpowers or whatever. What's even more impressive to me is how the hell if it's not real, then how the hell did they do that? You know what I mean? It's like there's obviously some high skill level to just shake a card and make it change. Like, even if it's not magic, it's mind blowing still.
And yeah, that's the thing. I try to create routines for my show that have people question, wait a minute, was that a trick, or did that actually happen? You know what I mean? Like if I had someone up on stage, I sawed her in half and then put it back together. Clearly, there's some sort of allusion to that, right? So people, to me personally, I don't find that impressive, because people are like, all right, clearly he didn't really saw her in half, or she could be dead right now. Right?
Right.
Like, so I can
Right.
do things that people are like, wait a minute, like, how did, like, he wrote down a name, or he wrote down a playing card, and he asked me what playing card I was thinking of, and it was the same card that he wrote down. Now, was that real? Because that could happen. There's a 1/50 chance of happening, but was there a trick behind it? Like, you know, so that's what I try to make it be like. You know, could it actually happen? I try to make my routines around that, right? And make people question that. You know, I think, and that's
you want it to seem as real as possible.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't use no fancy props or anything. I make it like, wow, like that. Wait, did that actually happen? Or so I call it coincidental magic, right?
Yeah, that makes sense, because then someone's they'll go like racking their brain for like all the logical ways that you could have assumed certain things, and like it definitely, because as realistic as certain things can be, it's still very complex for like just between the sleight of hand, the logic, the like manipulation, and the circumstance, because sometimes you might have someone like really looking like at your hands, so you got to make everything line up. And
that's the thing with creating magic, is how do you make it natural? I think we talked about this beforehand, but like, you could have an amazing idea, but if the audience believes that would actually never happen, then it's not, like, it's really interesting of the perfect trick, right? And how, in my opinion, a magician should never perform something that seems too good to be true. Does that make sense?
What would be an example of that?
Yeah. So if I said like if I said like, okay, I want you to think of a place. Like if I had a card here, right? If I said, okay, I want you to think about any place in the world, a celebrity name, a food, your middle name, and the time and date. What are all those things? And I had them all written down right here, right? Like that's too good to be true, right? Like it's like, okay, it's just too perfect. Where in your perspective, you'd be like, it's so good that it can't be true.
Right.
Yeah, like you must have gotten my information.
Yeah, like who did you talk to?
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
you'd be like, it's such an amazing, it's such an amazing trick that it has to be a trick, right? And it's a really interesting philosophy about magicians. Because magicians are trying to do things that may seem impossible to do. But at the same time, you want to have people realize, like, wait a minute, that could have actually happened, right?
Yeah. So there's actually a I don't know that this is breaking the code or anything, but I saw a magician once at it was a hotel up in New Hampshire, and he this was probably more of like a kid show anyways, but just like a trick he had done was I'm trying to remember it exactly because it was like a glass of water that he had pouring, and then he like let go of it and the glass was still there, and then he like went and grabbed it again, and I forget exactly like the explanation. I think there was like a tube or like something. I don't want to get into ruining the guy's joke, but I just remember being like, there is some clear prop going on here. Like he didn't make a glass float. So like, even I was young at the time, but I just remember thinking like, how is that a real trick? And like certain things, just getting back to like making things float and like, you know, things when it gets too surreal, you start to think like there's some external factors at play that we just haven't been, you don't see. Almost like kind of like a heist movie when they show you that the heist already happened. And you're just like, okay.
That's exactly what it is. Like, and that's the thing. If people know it really can't happen, then you can't they won't be entertained, right?
Right.
Like, you have to give them some sort of explanation of how it happened, even though that couldn't be the explanation. You want to lead them down some path where they're like some sort of hope, right? Or not hope, but like, wait a minute, we multiplied a bunch of numbers together and he predicted the number, right? Like, okay, he could have done that, but wait, did he do that? Or was that just a trick? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you want to give them some way of being like, wow, that could have actually happened, but out of all the instances it actually did happen, wait, you know? But like floating something, people know that you can't really float something. So like, you're instantly drawn like, okay, there's a string, or it's a fake this, or it's a fake that, right? Like, so I think the best type of magic is making something that people believe could happen, but the odds of it happening is so little that when it does happen, they're like, wait a minute, how did that just happen, right?
Right.
And the added layer of like giving, like you mentioned, people control, like, hey, pick these numbers, we'll multiply them, and like you have the answer somehow. Like that is pretty, it like someone can it just adds that extra element of like, I picked these things and this is how it came out. Like that is insane.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's actually a trick I do on my show. Very similar to what you just said. You know, they multiply a bunch of numbers together and I predict the number. But yeah, you know, that's the thing. You have to make it personable. You have to make it relatable. You have to make it seem like, wait a minute, like, how did those numbers just like, okay, he predicted a number, but what if he was one digit off? You know what I mean? Like, the odds of that happening equal that number, but the odds of that happening was 1 in a million, but it ended up happening. Now, was that a trick, or did we actually just experience that 1 in a millionth odd chance of happening, right? And that's what I try to do with my magic. I don't do things that people know can't be done, right? Like, and that's a lot of times that magicians struggle with. They try to find something, they do something that people know isn't real, and they do it, and yeah, it might be amazing, but then people know it's a trick, right? It's a very interesting blurry line of imagination versus reality, and how often do you want to cross either line, right?
Yeah, because I mean, there's got to be an extent like you can't avoid. You are trying to like shock and awe the audience, so like you can't do like there probably has to be some things that are like no human could make this float, or like I feel like that has to be at least part of it early, just, you know, as part of the deception. Like this part was crazy, but then here's like the real, like the numbers and stuff. So
yeah, exactly. Like, if people are witnessing you do something that they know physically is impossible to do, they know that it's physically impossible to do it, so they know it's a trick, right? So therefore, it's actually backfiring because now they know it's a trick, and they're trying to figure out, okay, now how did you actually get that done, right? So it's a really interesting philosophy about magicians and the way that they think and stuff like that, where I try to make it be like, okay, the odds of that happening, that could have happened. So how did he make that happen, right? Like, you know, so that's what I try to do. Yeah.
And do you detail these things in your book, or at least the first one, right? The second one's probably more towards the business side of it.
Yeah, the first one I don't get into probably as much philosophy as we got into today, but I do talk about how to make things look natural, and you know, the best magic is about, you know, if you just essentially how to make things look natural. Do magic is about doing extraordinary things with ordinary objects. So if you do something that doesn't seem natural, if you're holding the deck of cards in a weird way, the audience is instantly going to know that that's to do with something with the trick, because it wouldn't be that way, right? So the way I kind of work backwards is that if I develop a trick, I would then perform the trick if I actually wasn't doing the trick. If that makes sense. Like if I it's kind of hard to say, but if I needed to take a card, like if I need to take a card out, like so for instance, let's say like memorize that card, right? We put it back in the middle of the deck, right? And we take it. It's actually right here. Do you see that go? Right. So the way I did it is I did this and then watch this hand. It captures the card, right? But my hand is positioned in a way where you wouldn't think there's anything in my hand because it's in a natural position, right?
Yep.
And my eyes went up with the deck, right? So if we take everything into consideration, this is a move, and my eyes go up here, so your eyes automatically go up there. So if I wasn't actually palming the card, it would actually look like this, right? And I have nothing in my hands, but that's what it would naturally look like if I wasn't actually doing the trick.
Yeah.
Now it's like, okay, that's what it looks like if I wasn't doing the trick. Now I have to make it seem like that's what I'm actually doing.
Okay.
So now do this, and I have it in my hand.
Yep. Wow.
That is crazy. Okay.
That's awesome.
And do you ever do video demos like this, like on YouTube and stuff, or is that taboo in the magic industry? Do you not want to like show them to like?
Well, now it's a tough line because it's like a lot of you don't want to reveal a lot of your tricks, but at the same time, it depends who your target audience is, because there are magicians out there that do videos like this, but their audience are magicians like myself that want to learn about this philosophy, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that for someone who knows nothing about magic, because they can't palm the card I just palmed, so it's useless information for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just talking right now. We're just talking about the how to make things just look natural, right? But again, so some of the content I talk about is just more people would find it more interesting depending on their knowledge of magic, right? So I could do a lot of philosophy videos, but then I have to figure out, okay, who actually would watch these, and then how do I cater my content and wording to that as well? Like probably after this, I think I was actually planning on filming. Actually, the trick that we did today, where you said stop, I was going to film that one and probably maybe two more, and then people would buy how I would do that. Kind of like we were talking about like a little earlier, like how the magic industry works. Like you would learn, you buy and you learn how to do it. So like that. So I'd probably teach that maybe two more tricks. In my target audience now isn't these famous magicians, that these expert magicians, right? Like a lot of my people that follow me on social media are everyday people that really don't know a lot about magic, but just enjoy magic in general. So I'm not going to be teaching tricks that are really complex to learn, because then what would be the use of that, right? If people, that's not my target audience. My target audience are people that really know nothing about magic, but they just want to learn a few tricks or two to do at parties, right? And those are people that follow me on social media. But I could also do a video for more complex routines for people who are really into magic and teach my more philosophy and more complex tricks. But again, I think my following on social media are people that really don't. Of course, I have magicians that follow me, but a lot of people are just really don't know, just know the simple stuff of cards and stuff like that. So I'm not going to create videos, for that audience. But I do have a lot of like thought leadership videos on. If you go to like my keynote page on my website, I do have like a lot of thought leader videos on my blog that talk about more of the creativity process and stuff like that. Like a lot of things that we talked about today.
Okay.
Yeah. So it just depends what the target audience is,
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we're doing pretty good on time. We can probably wrap things up. Is there anything else in particular we wanted to hit?
I think we covered a lot.
Yeah, we're on 3 hours now, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, we're on over 3 hours. So it was good though. A lot of good stuff. Appreciate you coming on.
That was fun. Yeah, that was really fun. I got like really kind of deep at some points. Like I didn't realize like some stuff,
Oh
yeah.
You would have
Well, hey.
imagined having a magician on you talking about drugs.
I mean, when you go for 3 hours, everything comes up.
Yeah. So I guess just for the audience, any so the two books, Perfect Illusion, The Perfect Illusion, Life, John Duke Logan, or John Logan on Amazon, or no, John Duke
not
Logan
Amazon. JohnDukeLogan.com.
Don't go to Amazon.
Yeah.
That takes a lot of my percentage.
Jeff Bezos doesn't need it right now.
Yeah,
He
honestly,
does not,
yeah. Not a great guy, Jeff Bezos.
Yeah, impossibleisjustaword.com, JohnDukeLogan.com. This is where you can buy these things.
Yeah.
And the other book was The Magic Behind the Business, right?
Yeah, Magic Behind Success. You can. It's
That's
my
success.
keynote, so it's like I teach a lot of creativity, strategy, and stuff like that. If you guys want to follow me on social media, it's just John Duke Logan, JohnDukeLogan. John Lennon, Duke University, Logan Airport. It's the best way.
There you go. There you go.
Perfect.
Yeah, and then I'm pretty active on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. So kind of those platforms, I post a lot on there. But yeah, I think right now, I think we've kind of talked about this beforehand, that I think right now more than ever we all kind of need each other. So I would definitely love to connect with as many people as possible and see how I can help you guys, and and especially in this time of need and where we're in the world right now we live in. I think community is so important and how to support each other. So I'm definitely want to connect with as many people as possible and see how I can help in any way.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Everyone
We're
give him a
fortunate we
follow,
can-
John Duke Logan.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're fortunate to have these platforms so we can actually
For
communicate
sure.
during
Shout out
times
to
like
Zoom.
this. Yeah, shout out Zoom.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. Have you on again too. That's sometime. That sounds like we have a lot to talk about.
Come back on anytime. Yeah.
Well, yeah, thanks for having me, guys. That's fun.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming, man.
Cool. All right.
Episode 57. That's a wrap.
All right. Thank you.
Adios.